Hey guys, tonight we're not climbing aboard any pirate ships. No greasy sailors, no splintery rails, no parrots screaming profanities they definitely didn't learn in Sunday school. Nope. Tonight, we're drifting into something far stranger, far more unexpected, and honestly far funnier than any pirate misadventure. The bizarre and mildly horrific world of ancient contraception using crocodile dung, and the unbelievable story of a hurricane that accidentally saved America. But before we dive nose first into history's strangest medical choices and nature's most dramatic plot twist, take a second to like the video and subscribe. But only if you actually enjoy this kind of mildly unhinged historical bedtime content. Go on and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Somehow it's always 2 a.m. somewhere. And honestly, that is exactly the right time of night to learn about ancient people shoving reptile poop where the sun doesn't shine, and storms casually rewriting the future of nations. Now dim those lights, turn on a fan for that soft, white noise breeze, sink deeper into your bed or couch, get comfy, and maybe tuck your feet in. Not because imaginary rats will nibble your toes, but because tonight's journey might make you curl them involuntarily anyway. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered just how strange human history actually gets when no one's sanitizing it for textbooks? Have you ever thought about the absolutely unserious things our ancestors did with full confidence? Whether it was medical experimentation, political gambles, or rituals that definitely weren't FDA approved. Or how sometimes massive events like wars, invasions, or national crises are quietly solved not by strategy or brilliance, but by weather throwing a tantrum? Tonight, we're gently wandering through two wildly different corners of history. One, a story from ancient Egypt, where people mixed science, superstition, and courage in ways modern humans simply are not built for. And two, a moment in American history where a hurricane arrived like an unexpected guest, swept away the enemy, and essentially said, "Nah, not today." But don't worry, we're not rushing into graphic details or swirling storms at full speed. We're taking this journey slowly, sleepily, letting each absurd, fascinating piece of history drift in like a warm breeze. Because history doesn't have to be loud to be interesting. Sometimes it's better when you're half asleep, cozy and mentally preparing for the weirdest bedtime story you've ever heard. So, settle in. Let the fan hum. Let your shoulders relax. Let the modern world fade away as we step into a time where everyday people navigated life with strange remedies, questionable logic, and sheer, stubborn survival instinct, and where nature itself once intervened at exactly the right moment. Tonight's history is bizarre. It's
Dramatic. It's mildly disgusting. And it's strangely comforting.
because no matter what kind of day you had, at least you didn't rely on crocodile dung for anything important, and at least weather didn't have to personally intervene to fix your problems. Ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1. Atum and the Solitary Birth of Creation. In the shimmering vastness of an eternal void, long before land had risen, long before sky had taken shape, and long before time itself had found its rhythm, there existed only one being, Atum. A vibrant fresco from ancient Egypt captures this mysterious moment at the dawn of existence. The scene glows with rich mineral pigments, deep reds, radiant golds, and brilliant lapis blues, illuminating the solitary figure at the center of everything that would one day become the cosmos. Atum stands alone in the shining emptiness, not frightened by the void surrounding him, but empowered by it. In Egyptian cosmology, creation began not through conflict or accident, but through a being of profound self-determination. Atum embodies completeness, unity, and the possibility of worlds yet unformed. The fresco depicts him with regal posture, his form outlined by an otherworldly light that seems to radiate from within, casting long, graceful shadows across the endless expanse. Around him stretches limitless nothingness, an ocean of silence, darkness, and potential. Yet the void feels alive, as though listening for the first heartbeat of creation. Atum stands at its center like a flame suspended in water, glowing with a quiet intensity. The ancient artists painted the scene to reflect more than mythology. They meant to convey a truth, that existence itself was born from a moment of absolute will. With no other gods beside him, no materials to shape, and no sound to break the silence, Atum turns inward. From the depths of his being arises a surge of creative force, pure, concentrated intention. He channels this energy outward in a symbolic act of self-originating power. Egyptian priests later described this as an act both physical and divine, but the fresco renders it metaphorically. Spirals of light unfurl from Atum's hands and mouth, swirling outward like glowing ribbons unfurling into the void. From this radiant energy emerge the first divine pair, Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. They do not appear fully formed in the fresco, but are shown as luminous shapes just beginning to coalesce at Atum's sides. Shu rises like a pale golden mist, his form stretching upward as if inhaling the very possibility of breath into creation. Tefnut flows downward in cool, shimmering blues, her shape rippling like a drop of water falling into the stillness of an untouched sea. The fresco portrays these two emergences not as violent or startling events, but as graceful unfoldings, soft, elegant expansions of light into form. Shu's air begins to fill the void with movement, shaping currents and separations, giving depth to the world to be. Tefnut's moisture adds softness, texture, and the subtle shimmer of life's earliest ingredients. Together, they represent the first balance: dryness and wetness, breath and water, structure and flow. Atum stands between them, his expression calm,
Knowing, almost tender. The self-generated force that brought creation into being now settles into harmony. The void is no longer empty. It has become the first stage of the cosmos, a theater prepared for mountains, rivers, sky, and all living things. The fresco's background glows with a gentle gradient of gold, crimson, and deep indigo, symbolizing dawn rising over nothingness. Atum's solitary act has bridged the chasm between non-existence and existence, establishing a lineage that would one day give birth to the earth, the heavens, and humanity. In this quiet, radiant depiction, the ancient Egyptians captured something profound: that creation can begin from a single spark of determination, that life emerges first in stillness, and that even in absolute solitude, divine purpose can unfold into a universe. Chapter 2: Crocodile Dung. Contraception and the Birth of Rational Thought. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner of quirky history. Tonight, we're diving deep into a pool of past absurdities that's murkier than the bottom of your favorite 1970s shag carpet. So, if you're ready, grab a pillow, because tonight, we're chatting about the fascinating and, let's be honest, mildly horrifying ways ancient civilizations tackled life's most pressing problems, and their even more questionable attempts at love. But first, let's warm up with a few reflections. Have you ever found yourself staring at your cousin's wedding and thought to yourself, how did they convince themselves to tie the knot while the buffet is mostly cold peas and questionable meat? Maybe you've sat at a family gathering, silently judging their dance moves, wondering how a meme-worthy dad dance became a rite of passage. Well, you won't believe how much these ancient folks had to endure when it came to matters of the heart. Think of it as cardio for the soul. Now, before we jump into the marshy waters of marriage machinery and medicinal mishaps, make sure to gently press that like button, as gently as you would touch a baby crocodile, because, spoiler alert, they can be feisty. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy these late-night tangents into history.
Like that one friend who just can't stop talking about their Dungeons and Dragons campaign. But I digress. Take a moment, dim those lights, crank up your fan like it's auditioning for a role in a summer blockbuster, and snuggle in. Imagine yourself amid the ancient Egyptians, where the Nile flowed like your friend's sad attempts at poetry, constantly unpredictable and occasionally poetic. Picture yourself in 1300 BCE. Are you ready? Because, congratulations, you've just awoken in a bustling marketplace where the sweet smell of figs wafts through the air, mixed with something a little less desirable. That's right, crocodile dung. Ah yes, nothing rings in a new era of innovation quite like prehistoric fertility treatments. Let's talk about that for a second. Ever mulled over how much you'd pay for a hip new supplement? Because, I assure you, the ancient Egyptians had their own bizarre take on alternatives. Spoiler alert, it involved smearing crocodile dung in intimate areas. Yes, you heard me right. Crocodile dung. Forget about your essential oils and the latest avocado toast diet. These ancient people believed that this lovely little package from the Nile could prevent unwanted pregnancies. It's sort of like getting relationship advice from that cousin who can't keep a goldfish alive. Picture yourself perusing your local grocery store, contemplating the avocado aisle, and then casually stumbling upon a Crocodile Dung fertility cream next to your favorite organic yogurt. You'd likely have some serious questions like, who's the marketing genius behind this? Or, did they test it first? Or was this a collective decision made after several too many papyrus scrolls were consumed? But did it work? It's kind of hard to say. Researchers think the ancient Egyptians were pretty confident, perhaps a little too confident, about their plan. The rationale behind it might be one of those ancient science experiments gone wrong. Or maybe they were just trying to add some spice to their love lives. You can picture them saying, well, romp with the dung or face the consequences, darling. It's a romance novel I'd gladly read, but not while eating dinner. Now, let's slosh over to the Middle Ages, where around the 5th century CE, things were even weirder, and, let me tell you, a little smelly. Ever thought your online shopping experience is confusing? Imagine medieval peasant markets, where you had to haggle with a smelly butcher while dodging a knight who was way too excited to exhibit his latest jousting injury. Each vendor had their own stinky specialty, and you were left wondering why pickled veggies could smell worse than a romaine lettuce apocalypse gone rogue. The Black Plague had hit, and while folks were racing for the hills, doctors, those brave souls, were trying to get a grip on this epidemic. They had some quirky remedies, like wearing beak masks stuffed with lovely botanicals to ward off the miasma of bad air. Sure, might still be sick, they mused, but at least I smell fabulous. It's kind of like trying to mask a bad hair day with a flashy hat. Only this hat could potentially lead you to a grave rather than a brunch date. But wait, it gets weirder. Flash forward to the scientific revolution in the 17th century. Here's where things begin to glitter, like that one pair of sequined pants that seemed like a good idea at the time. Sure, there was some serious intellectual heavy lifting going on. Think of Shakespeare, the telescope, and the birth of logic itself. But during this time, you could also find people seriously debating whether or not to let, say, a cabbage do the talking for them. Cabbages tell the truth, they'd say, but only on Tuesdays. You might be thinking, but what about clean living and galas? Well, hallelujah. They agreed that it might be time to stop analyzing those old parchment scrolls and start looking around at the world as a whole. But let's be real. If you think modern dating is tough, imagine filling out a form for a new romantic match in a world where the accepted greeting may involve some ancient herbal mention of your grandmother's health, while she scowls in the corner. And somehow, among all this delightful chaos, these early thinkers began figuring out the universe's mysteries. So, remember, if your Tinder date doesn't go well, there's always ancient history to comfort you, where at least you could blame it on crocodiles and their dung-filled romantic data plans. So,
Curl up in your imaginary time capsule. The journey has just begun. Whether you find yourself dodging crocodilian contraception or navigating the fragrant world of medieval markets, know that amidst the absurd, there are laughs waiting just around the corner. History might be messy, but like a well-mixed salad, if you get enough dressing, it can still be deliciously entertaining. Chapter 3. Home Sweet Nile. As you settle into your cozy bed of hay and questionable smells, let's transport you to the sun-kissed banks of the Nile around 1300 BCE. Congratulations! You've just woken up as a lovable, linen-clad Egyptian couple in your bright adobe home adorned with plaster and hieroglyphics that tell the tale of yesterday's dinner. You're nestled comfortably on a simple reed mat which passes for a luxurious king-sized bed if you squint hard enough and can avoid the slightly pungent odor of, well, let's just say it's natural. Imagine this. The air is filled with the aroma of fresh papyrus and the not-so-pleasant scent of Nile mud, a delightful blend reminiscent of wet dog and a poorly stocked pantry. Your partner, sporting a fashionable white linen tunic that just begs to be stained with something exquisitely messy, gazes lovingly at you. You take a moment to appreciate their flowing mane of hair. Yes, they clearly invest a significant amount of time in hairstyling, which, judging by modern standards, would put your average hipster to shame. Isn't it cozy here? You might say, drifting between sleep and wakefulness. I can practically hear the grains of sand whispering sweet nothings to us. But let's be honest, what they're actually saying is, get out of bed and start grinding some grain, or else we're having very airy bread for dinner again. Let's talk about daily life in ancient Egypt. Forget about grabbing your morning coffee from the local cafe. You're lucky if the only thing annoying you at dawn is your overzealous pet cat who seems to be eyeing your breakfast with far too much enthusiasm. It's all about the hustle and bustle of getting on with life, working in fields, crafting beautiful pottery, or maybe even the occasional foray into the arts of mummification, just for fun. Speaking of fun, have you ever tried figuring out how to convince a couple of dozen pigeons to soar gracefully through the air while you're on the verge of potentially scaring the life out of them with your poorly executed spell of make a delicious falafel? It's about as easy as trying to tickle a hippo while doing the cha-cha. And yet, here you are in the Nile Valley, engaged in discussions over your plans for the next harvest, all while observing the grand procession of noble Egyptians riding by on fancy chariots that look more like gilded roller coasters than vehicles. As you hold your partner's hand, warmth pulses through your palm. Life in New Kingdom Egypt isn't merely about bodily comfort. It's about cultivating ambition while remaining blissfully unaware of the looming threats of drought, famine, and that awkward moment when your neighbor's cat decides to target your prized papyrus scroll. Talk about interspecies rivalry. What's that, you might ask, tilting your head. It's the sound of a distant donkey braying, perhaps lamenting the loss of its favorite carrot, or maybe hinting that someone forgot to fetch it breakfast. You can't help but chuckle at the image. Meanwhile, you savor the feel of linen against your skin, smooth, soft, yet just a tad scratchy if you let it drift too low. Not exactly luxurious, but when compared to sleeping on rocks, it's practically a 5-star experience. It's funny how life unfolds, isn't it? Here you are, thriving in a land that built pyramids, and yet the greatest challenge you might face today is trying to make sure the cats stay away from the bread dough you are attempting to prepare, while accidentally mixing up the barley flour with what now feels suspiciously like sand from the Nile. Oh, don't worry, you assure your loving partner as they look on concerned. If it feels like sand, it just adds that extra crunch, like an unexpected nibble at the beach. You laugh together, entwined in mutual adoration amid the simple pleasures of the day. The smell of the Nile blends with the scent of the fresh bread you're preparing. And perhaps, if the universe is feeling particularly generous, you'll even manage to keep the neighborhood cats at bay. A minor miracle in its own right. As the sun rises higher in the sky,
promising long hours filled with bustling activity, the day stretches ahead of you. Again, not so much about comfort, but rather the endurance to keep the joyful chaos going. You share ideas of harvesting the nearby fields and how to fend off third-party pigeons trying to snatch your lunch. You and your partner, hand in hand, celebrate these small victories. After all, no one has ever achieved greatness while clutching their rice bowl in despair. And if you happen to notice a slight breeze ruffling your tunic just right, remember this: even in the simplest moments, life can be beautifully absurd. Now, as you doze off to that gentle sound of Egyptian life, it's quite clear that the best stories of love and laughter often lie hidden in the small, mildly interesting details of history. Much like those pesky grains of sand caught in your favorite reed mat. Sleep tight. The Nile has many tales yet to share. Chapter 4. The Lettuce God Speaks. Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something more curiously delightful than that time your neighbor attempted to multitask by trimming their hedges while making a smoothie. Prepare your minds to travel back to 1300 BCE with a special appearance by Min, the fabulous Egyptian god of fertility, crowned not with gold or jewels, oh no, but with a bouquet of milk-sapped romaine lettuce stalks. Yes, when it comes to ancient fertility icons, it seems leafy greens were the fashionable accessory of the day. Imagine, you're going about your day in ancient Egypt, and suddenly it hits you. How often have you been tempted to don a salad on your head for strength? Or maybe you've considered if tossing a bouquet of romaine could help your investment portfolio flourish. Just me? But I urge you to focus. Channel your inner Min as we march through the halls of mildly interesting history that might just lull you into a delightful slumber. And while you're floating off into dreamland, why not like and subscribe? But only if you happen to enjoy our journeys through this rather zany historical landscape. Go ahead, dim the lights, put on a fan that makes you feel special, and for the love of garlic, get comfortable. Because it's time to embark on a journey so cozy, you might end up snoring before we unravel the mystical connection between crocodile dung and contraception. Now, have you ever wondered what it felt like to wake up and think, well, my morning just screams fertility god, doesn't it? Or maybe you've experienced day-to-day life feeling like the entire universe was conspiring against your plans for a tranquil breakfast. Perhaps you've even attempted to convince a few dozen pigeons not to steal your bagel in the park while simultaneously dodging that wonderfully nosy squirrel trying to claim your latte. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1300 BCE, where ancient Egyptians don't mess around with modern dramas like talking pets or existential crises about whether or not to order takeout. No, today you are one with the spirit of Min, a fierce fertility deity who inspired more lettuce-based hairstyles than you'd find at your local gourmet salad bar. Now, let's talk about daily life. The air around you feels warm and humid, deep within the embrace of the Nile. You are dressed in elegant linen, feeling particularly alive, except for that awful itch at your ankles, which could either be a bad case of mischief-making bugs or an unfortunate encounter with poorly fitted sandals. As you stand, you can't help but notice that you, like many of those in your community, have been blessed with a variety of responsibilities that would make a modern-day office worker reconsider their existence. You shuffle your feet and contemplate your to-do list. Today, I shall reap the harvest, perhaps attend a lively, writhing dance in Min's honor, and later engage in a philosophical debate about the mysteries of the afterlife. Or, whatever goes. Just then, you feel a prickly sensation running down your spine. Is it fear? Anticipation? Or are you simply realizing you forgot to feed the family donkey, whose opinion on breakfast could absolutely dictate your day? Donkeys have notoriously strong opinions, and according to legend, their delicately grumpy faces are known to inspire even the most obstinate of individuals to switch their career path dramatically. And then you hear it, the reverberating sound of drums. As the rhythm vibrates through your very soul, you are compelled to join in a cultural celebration. This one isn't just any fiesta.
It's the Great Fertility Festival. You dig your heels into the soft mud as the intoxicating scent of roasted figs wafts through the air. If Min himself were to strut into the gathering, even he might question the wisdom of wearing lettuce on his head, for it's the tantalizing aroma of roasted protein that really steals the show. But let's face it, social gatherings have their own unique chaos. What's worse than forgetting someone's name during a friendly chat? How about mispronouncing the name of the most important fertility god known to humankind? Oh yes, that's right. Min. My bad. Please don't turn the Nile into a raging tempest because I forgot your birthday. As the festival kicks into high gear, you watch the locals engage in rituals involving fruits, grains, and, wait for it, crocodile dung. Yes, the ancient Egyptians were resourceful, using the dung as a formidable form of contraception. Talk about recycling. Imagine a world where debates on climate change were replaced by discussions on the best method to harness nature's byproducts. Well, Gerald, I think the secret lies in some solid crocodile droppings. Just think of the savings we'd see on contraceptive pills. Life is festooned with unexpected elements, isn't it? From joyous parades to the potential for scandalous breaches of etiquette, you bask in this festival of life as the moon rises and the stars twinkle. You can almost feel them giggle, like ancient gossipers that know your finest secrets. So, as your eyelids grow heavy, consider this. While our foray into ancient Egypt showcases the sheer absurdity of life, it also paints a broader picture of humanity, a luscious tapestry woven from lettuce crowns, festive dances, and, naturally, a sprinkle of dung-related humor. And sleep will come easily, lulling you into dreams filled with lettuce crowns, all while whispers of the ancient Nile drift into the backdrop. Because in the end, laughter often springs from the mildly interesting absurdities of our past, much like that questionable decision to try wearing a salad as a hat. Sleep tight. Min is watching over you.
Chapter 5. The Love Letter from Ancient Egypt. Hey guys, are you ready to embark on a journey so riveting it could wake a mummified pharaoh from his slumber? Tonight, we're diving into ancient Egypt, where love notes were etched onto pottery, and the only thing more complicated than getting a date was trying to decipher if that hieratic script was "I adore you" or "Your bread is stale." Yes, it's time to unfold the absurdity of life in 1300 BCE, where a romantic longing looked a lot like "I dream of your beauty by night," scribbled next to a loaf of bread. So, before we dust off our metaphorical sandals, like ancient Egyptians very likely did every single morning, consider this. Ever tried to send a text message using pottery shards? How do you even break that news to your crush? And what about those nights you desperately wanted to impress someone, yet arrived late to dinner because you couldn't figure out how to tie your tunic properly? You've probably worn your shirt inside out, accidentally, at least once in the past week. Now imagine doing that in front of the goddess of love. Now, dim the lights, crank up a fan for that authentic "I'm in an ancient river valley" vibe, and get cozy. Because guess what? You've just awakened in 1300 BCE, smack dab in the heart of ancient Egypt. You blink a few times, squinting against the blaring sun, and you can practically hear the Nile whispering sweet nothings while it flows by, occasionally beckoning you to throw a few catfish in the pot for dinner. Let's talk about your morning routine. It's not as easy as it sounds. You rub your eyes, and suddenly you realize it's hotter than a blacksmith's forge outside. Instead of a soothing coffee, you might have some leftover stale flatbread to nibble on, and let's not even get started on the alternatives to coffee. Ever tried boiling dandelion root? Spoiler alert, it doesn't exactly taste like your double espresso with extra foam. And in this sandy paradise, washing your face is a tad different than slathering on face creams or splashing cool water. Oh no, you're practically sloshing Nile water on your mug while trying not to attract suspicious crocodiles. You see,
The Nile is both a blessing and a curse. It's teeming with life, and also happens to be one of those you can't take a step without risking an encounter with predatory reptiles kind of places. The fashion? Let's just say, if you've ever wondered what it's like to wear a bedsheet while trying to avoid a heat stroke, you're nailing it. Your tunic sways gently while beads of sweat make their way down your back. Ah, the joys of linen. It's not like you can just throw on a t-shirt and shorts. No, being fashionable here means you adhere strictly to the tunic-wearing community. Forget about the comfort of jeans. Now, let's say you decide to take a stroll down to the market. You know, just a casual saunter to pick up some figs and potentially
Run into your crush. As you navigate through dusty streets, you can't help but notice women presenting their wares in splendiferous displays. It's like your average farmer's market, but the produce is often larger than your current culinary aspirations. Oh look, that pomegranate looks incredibly satisfied with itself today. But be prepared for the cost of romance. Somewhere in your adrenaline-fueled daydream of finding love lies your wallet. Perhaps a few drachmas hidden under a goat's foot. So what do? You scribble a romantic note on a piece of pottery, etching it as delicately as you can, all while praying this won't end up in your neighbor's garden mulch. I dream of your beauty by night, leaning against a loaf of bread. Just picture that for a second. Your love interest reading your words while smirking at the fact that the most poetic line of the day came with a side of carbohydrates. Talk about a carb-laden romantic gesture. And let's face it, if the lovely reader isn't swooning, it's only because they're secretly eyeing the next delicious fig across the table. At the day's end, as the sun dips below the horizon like the last slice of pie at a family dinner, you might reflect on your day. Did wandering around wearing a tunic while wrestling with language create what you envisioned as modern romance? Or did it banish your dreams of epic love back into the realm of, this is definitely a you-had-to-be-there situation? As you lay your head on that not-so-soft straw pillow tonight, remember this. In ancient times, love wasn't just something you felt deep in your heart. It came with context clues written on broken pottery. It blended spontaneity with creativity, or, in some cases, a delightful hint of absurdity. And embrace this. If your love life today is anything like sending note after note, you may find that it all leads you to a place where romance is just as mildly interesting and delightfully absurd as it was in 1300 BCE. With that thought warming your heart like a loaf of fresh bread, you can drift into dreams where pottery and love intertwine like a dance beneath the twinkling Egyptian stars. Sleep tight. Tomorrow, we might just tackle how crocodile dung ended up being more than just fertilizer.
Chapter 6. The High Priestess and the Pot of Dreams. Hey guys, are you ready to snag some wisdom that's funkier than a pair of ancient sandals after a long day of Nile walking? Tonight, we're plunging into a pot of herbal concoctions that would make your local apothecary raise an eyebrow and possibly a white flag. Picture this. It's 1300 BCE, and we're about to meet a determined Egyptian high priestess who's a pioneer in the world of, shall we say, creative contraception. Grab a cushion and settle in as we stir this bizarre brew together. Now, let's think about this priestess for a moment. Ever tried to mix your skincare products while being watched by a bunch of cats? Yeah, pretty much the same vibe. Imagine orchestrating your everyday life while swathed in a luscious robe that makes you feel like a walking cupcake, while also inspiring a little jealousy from the nearby goats. What if your DIY project had unintended consequences that would make cleaning your kitchen look like child's play? And have you ever spilled a cauldron of something sticky, only to find your roommate still judging you in the morning? Congratulations! You've just woken up in ancient Egypt, and your first task is to attend to our high priestess, who's pipetting, yes, pipetting, her way through a mystical recipe for herbal contraception. Trust me, she's about to make your attempts at cooking seem like microwave popcorn. You blink awake, your senses tingling. Imagine the sun pouring through windows like it's auditioning for a role in a soap opera. The aroma? A tantalizing blend of acacia gum, sweet honey,
and some sourdough that surely survived more drama than a love triangle. She's standing in front of a large clay pot like it's a cauldron of chaos, and honestly, it may as well be. Let's talk about the ingredients for a moment. Acacia gum. It's like nature's chewable bubblegum, except without the flair of a bright wrapper and very little chance of attracting actual children. We're talking about a sticky, resinous substance that has a dual career as a glue and a laxative. Good luck explaining that to your friends at the next potluck. There she is, our high priestess, stirring her pot with the determination of someone who believes this could either be a life-changing herbal remedy or a potion that sends you on a trip, quite possibly to the afterlife, judgment notwithstanding. And can you imagine the chatter among her fellow priestesses? "Oh darling, have you tried that new acacia brew? It's fabulous, and might just keep your future lovers at bay." But it's not just about love. Oh no, she's tackling the deep-rooted problem of population growth. After all, in a society where every household is crammed to the rafters with kids and cats, navigating the dating scene can feel like an extreme sport. And trust me, nothing makes awkward flirtations more complicated than the fear of bringing a small army into the world. Ever tried to converse with a potential soulmate while dodging children and livestock? It's like finding Zen in an active zoo. Let's say it's time for her to give this mixture a test run. There's a swirling hope she doesn't end up like that one unfortunate herbalist who unwittingly created a potion that turned a village into a slew of anxious, regretful cats. She ladles the mixture into small, self-fashioned forms, her very own moldy honey pancakes, except without the Yelp reviews. As she prepares to set her blend to dry in the enchanting Egyptian sun, suddenly a thought strikes her. What if it rains? What if the Nile has a surprise flood, washing away her meticulous creations as easily as a modern-day barista mistaking a soy latte for regular? Ah, but here comes the delightful twist. She's not just a dedicated producer of herbal remedies. She's the expert of semi-rigid potions that would rather deter unwanted pregnancies than invite crocodiles to the party. Adjusting her headdress, she's pondering whether she should start charging for these herbal delights, while simultaneously developing the guilty pleasure of branding them with clever names. Crocodile Dung Delight, strong enough for the pharaoh, gentle enough for you. The pot is bubbling, and the scene is surreal, almost like watching a sitcom unfold, one where laughter echoes through the grand halls of the temple, yet contrasting magnificently with the seriousness of her task. This is a place where women wield both the power of creation and a touch of slapstick humor. As she steps back, the cauldron of magic now simmering away, it almost feels like she's moving into territory worthy of a historical sitcom, filled with accidental lore and punchlines no one saw coming. One wrong ingredient, and she could be the laughingstock of the village. Picture the gathering crowd whispering, "Did you see her try to make a contraceptive? We're going to have to write that one down." But instead, let's imagine her standing tall, knowing she's just done something both inspiring and hilariously absurd. Because in the end, it's not just an ancient recipe, it's a vision of empowerment wrapped in a swirl of honey and a dash of stench. Ah, dear listeners, as you drift deeper into dreamland, remember her wisdom. Creating solutions amidst comedic chaos is perhaps the most ancient form of self-care we could embrace today. And should any rogue crocodile pop up in your dreams tonight, just offer it a dose of her elixir. It might just save you from unwanted adventures. Sleep tight, and who knows? Tomorrow we just might explore that peculiar hurricane that bravely dashed across history, rescuing America in the process. Chapter 7. The Tomb of Affectionate Overseers. Hey guys, are you ready to dive into something more tender than an overcooked piece of goat meat on a hot summer's day? Tonight, we're exploring a love story etched in stone from the great, enigmatic land of ancient Egypt, where even the afterlife couldn't keep a couple apart. Imagine a relationship so strong it survived beyond the great beyond, all while commanding the attention of cats, mummies, and maybe even a wandering pharaoh or two. Before we leap into this romantic pit of intrigue, have you ever wondered why cats always seem to stare at you like they're judging your life choices? Or perhaps you've had a moment when your bad haircut literally left a legacy more significant than your online dating profile. As we take a stroll through this historical stroll, think about what it was like being two overseers of manicurists. What a title! Did they have a daily quota of perfectly polished nails? Was there an award for the shiniest fingers? And let's not gloss over it. Ever thought about how it felt to embrace someone in a tomb, knowing the hieroglyphics on the wall were whispering your secrets to centuries of curious tourists? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1300 BCE, lying on a matte surface that feels suspiciously like a million-year-old slab of stone. The air is thick with dreams, or maybe just really old incense. You might even catch a whiff of something that resembles burnt offerings combined with a tang of, shall we say, ancient sweat. If your first thought is, I hope I don't accidentally start being worshipped as a god, relax. Worship is a little tricky when you're less shining deity and more slightly confused wanderer in someone else's tomb. Now, let's set the scene. You're in the beautifully decorated tomb of Khnum and Khnum-hotep, two affectionate overseers whose embrace is so intimate that it would make even modern couples cringe in envy. They're posed in such a way that you almost expect them to break into a synchronized routine worthy of the latest TikTok dance challenge. Their noses are touching, a gesture so adorable it could make even the most stoic Egyptian wall carving swoon. You could almost hear them whispering sweet nothings. Is that a jar of lotus flowers in your hand? Or are you just happy to see me? The detail is exquisite. Around you, hieroglyphics tell tales of manicured nails and whispered gossip about the latest fashions in the afterlife. Did you see the sandals Cleopatra wore last week? Utterly scandalous. You find yourself chuckling at the sheer absurdity of it all. But the romance doesn't stop there. Oh no. Here in ancient Egypt, love wasn't just for the living. In fact, it was celebrated just as wildly with the dearly departed. Imagine planning a date with your beloved against the backdrop of murals that seems to depict your every relationship milestone. Like the time you
accidentally asked your mother-in-law to the picnic. Bonus, she's immortalized here for all eternity in a decorative border, waving like the world's most awkward cheerleader. As you take a deeper look into their eyes, you start to ponder about their daily lives. Were they more the sipping wine by the Nile couple, or the we fought off lions together type? After all, with such fun job titles, their banter must have been off the charts. Imagine Khnum sighing dramatically. Honestly, another day of trimming nails. Life is hard. Why did my mother choose an overseer of manicurists? Why not a charioteer? Horses are much more forgiving. Ah, but love, dear listeners, is complicated, even when it's scooped in sunny hues of gold and deep blue. They had each other, sure, completely bound together in life and death. But it's not like they could just order a pizza to spice things up. How did they keep the spark alive under such pressure? Maybe nightly pedicures paired with a gentle hum of harp music? And let's not skip the gossip. Being overseers of manicurists, there must have been drama, and plenty of it. Can you imagine the conversations over dinner? Did you hear about Heka, the butcher's son? Rumor has it he used giraffe fat for moisturizer. Not very on trend. You can almost hear the collective gasp across the afterlife. A gossip hotline that transcends every living soul. As evening falls in the land of the pyramids, the atmosphere deepens. The shadows play tricks, wrapping the tomb in a soothing blanket. You sink deeper into relaxation, drifting to the humor and affection wrapped in these stone-carved souls. Khnum and Khnum-hotep are more than overseers. They're the epitome of a love story transcending time, space, and perhaps the occasional poorly managed pedicure.
So let the gentle embrace of these overseers cradle you into the night. Hold on to the laughter of ancient love, the heartbeat of a world long gone, but still giggling somewhere in the cosmic vastness of the universe, where even huge rock monuments can't conceal the comic quirks of passion that lived in a time when everything was just a little more interesting. With that, dear listeners, slip into serene dreams, where love conquers all. Clumsy sandals and all.
Chapter 8. The Capitol in Flames. Hey guys, are you ready to step into a scene so surreal it makes your latest Zoom meeting feel positively riveting? Tonight, we embark on a tale hotter than your neighbor's chili cook-off, and a little more chaotic than the time you tried baking sourdough bread during lockdown. Picture this. The majestic United States Capitol, still finding its footing, not quite finished, but strutting like a peacock at a costume party. When suddenly, flames. Yes, flames hotter than your morning coffee on a Monday, and far more concerning. But first, before we jump into this fiery historical drama, let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself standing in line for coffee, only to see the barista struggling with the espresso machine like a toddler with a Rubik's Cube? Or maybe you've tried putting together IKEA furniture and ended up debating your life choices in 4 different languages. Well, hold on to your wigs, dear listeners, because tonight's history is about to hit the fan in the most unexpected ways. Now, I'd love for you to settle in, dim the lights, and maybe grab a snack. A nice pillow might help too, unless you happen to be a historical figure sleeping on a dirt floor in the 1700s. In that case, you might want to hastily invent a better mattress. After all, who wouldn't want to wake up not feeling like a prehistoric pancake? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1814, amidst the clamor and clatter of the War of 1812. Smell that? It's a mix of gunpowder, ambition, and the faint aroma of something you left in the fridge 3 weeks ago. Welcome to a world where your biggest dilemma is not deciding what to watch on Netflix, but rather how to dodge a cannonball while grabbing a snack. Now, let's talk about fire. Not just any fire, but the almost theatrical inferno that engulfs the United States Capitol, surrounded by flames that lick the night sky like a hungry dragon craving a midnight snack. You're standing there, amidst the chaos, wondering if you should grab a bucket or find the nearest ice cream stand for moral support. It's hot, it's dramatic, and frankly, you're missing your comfy couch. But before you adjust your narrow-brimmed hat, let's rewind just a smidgen. A few months back, America was all about independence, federalism, and a grand design for a government building. The Capitol was supposed to be the ultimate symbol of democracy, but irony, dear listeners, has a wicked sense of humor. Enter the British troops, marching in like they own the place, and let's be honest, they kinda thought they did back then. In a stroke of what could only be described as poorly planned imperial ambition, they decided to throw a little fire party. And not just any fire party, this was the kind where entire sections of your cherished Capitol building burst into flames, transforming public excitement into a graphic novel of destruction. Picture it. There you are, barely able to decide what to wear to dinner, and the nation's crucial legislative building is morphing into a campfire story gone wrong. Ever tried to roast marshmallows over a raging inferno? No? Well, it's only slightly less chaotic than standing in the middle of this conflagration. The smoke looms thick, swirling overhead, casting a curtain of gloom that feels like you've accidentally walked onto the set of a horror movie. "Excuse me, folks," you say, as the flames crackle with a mischievous energy. "Has anyone seen the exit? Because I didn't sign up for this dramatization." The sound of clanging bells rings out, faint and distant, mixing with the languid, gallant cries of troops marching forward with the fierce determination of a hungry crowd at a Black Friday sale. As the fire rages, you might be tempted to consider an old saying, "When life gives you lemons, make lemonade." But when life gives you a raging fire, perhaps it's better to stand back and consider putting all lemon juice to the side for now.
Perhaps a bucket brigade might work. But no, let's be honest. Cleaning up after that blaze will be a Herculean task. You can practically hear future generations scoffing. Ah, remember that time the Capitol turned into a bonfire? Classic. Meanwhile, the citizens, somewhere between aghast and amused, gather to watch the spectacle. Well, at least it's not raining, one might quip as the night sky glows with the unnatural light of a building engulfed in flames, creating an Instagram moment that would definitely go viral, if there were a way to post it on the ancient scrolls of the day. Imagine trying to frame that shot for your scrapbook. This is our nation's pride, slightly charred but still majestic. The irony is delectable here. The very institution designed to promote democracy is reduced to ashes, twisting fate's droll hand like a pretzel. How's that for a historical plot twist? Historians will have a field day deciphering the deep meaning behind this fiery destruction, when the truth is, it's more of a cosmic comedy of errors. We simply couldn't have scripted this if we tried. As the smoke begins to clear and the embers cool, you might find yourself wondering, what will the architects think of this situation? Do you think they'll add a fire escape to the blueprints, or would that be too on the nose? And as dreams of charred wood dance in your head, let your thoughts float away like smoke on a breeze. Worry about dinner later. If your favorite meatloaf recipe can handle the heat, then surely your dreams can too. So wrap yourself in the warm blankets of history, dear listeners, and drift into slumber, where the flames may flicker, but the heart of democracy, smoldering, fiery, and a tad singed, lives to see another day. Sleep tight, knowing all the drama, from flaming capitals to unexpected historical hiccups, can still make you chuckle while the world spins on.
Chapter 9. Dolly's Daring Dash. Hey guys, are you ready for a history lesson so absurd it could be mistaken for an episode of your favorite sitcom? Tonight, we're diving into a moment thicker than the plot of a soap opera. February 1814, when the British troops weren't just on the outskirts, they were practically at the front door, knocking with the enthusiasm of a pizza delivery driver who forgot to confirm the order. But first, let's take a moment to appreciate a few things. Have you ever had that panic moment when you can't find your phone before heading out, only to realize it's been in your pocket the whole time? Or maybe you've had that unfortunate second when you discover you're wearing mismatched socks in public. Imagine that urgency, but instead of mismatched socks, you're dodging British troops determined to turn your house into a bonfire. And that phone? Oh, it's George Washington's portrait, and you need it safe, pronto. Now, dim the lights, grab a cozy blanket, and prepare to step back in time. Picture Dolly Madison, First Lady and unofficial hostess extraordinaire, not only juggling social calendars, but also quite literally saving the nation's face. If she had a reality show back then, it would likely be called Real Housewives of the War of 1812, featuring dramatic curls and historically inaccurate accusations. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1814, where the war feels more like a raucous party game gone terribly awry. Imagine dodgeball, but it's the British throwing cannonballs, and no one's prepared with a safety net. As the morning sun stretches its arms, you find yourself in the White House, which might be more aptly named the slightly singed house soon, if Dolly doesn't act fast. You feel the urgency of the moment slip through your fingers like too much slippery gravy. If there's one thing you don't want to be during a war, it's the last person in line for the escape route. As you peer out the window, a scene unfolds. British soldiers march in with all the enthusiasm of a marching band on a parade day, complete with terrible rhythm and a ferocious agenda for destruction. Your heart races faster than a squirrel chased by a dog, and that sweeping, grand foyer of the White House suddenly feels about as comfortable as a kindergarten classroom during nap time. Let's talk about Dolly. She's not just a fashionable first lady. She's effectively a human alarm clock in a period where everyone else seems to be hitting snooze on common sense. Imagine her, shawl wrapped tightly,
dashing back and forth like a feathered chicken trying to dodge a wayward cat as she supervises the frantic removal of George Washington's portrait from the wall, as if it's the last piece of cake at a very competitive birthday party. "No, not the frame, the whole portrait!" she exclaims in a frantic whisper, her mind racing through thoughts like a relay team passing the baton. She's got that Washington fabric in her hands, the face of the nation, his stoic gaze seeming to say, "Well, I can't believe we let it get to this." The British troops might as well come with a banner reading, "Your favorite painting is about to be our evening exhibit." As she pulls the frame down, she probably wonders if this whole endeavor might earn her an urgent spot in a future history book, while simultaneously making mental notes about the ballistic trajectory of cannonballs. Outside, the dread builds as the British troops advance with confidence. Do we really need to destroy the only White House we have? I mean, it's not like IKEA makes spare parts for these kinds of things. It's what any rational person would ask, or at least what they would mutter under their breath while deciding on whether to send a formal request for a ceasefire along with a side of biscuits. As the portrait makes its escape through the back door, imagine Dolly pausing for a split second. She could practically hear the marching band of trouble approaching, and with a quick gulp of courage, she considers all her options. Should she throw a tea party to distract the soldiers? Maybe persuade them with a slice of freshly baked cake? But then she remembers this is not the time for polite gesturing. It's time to save history one frantic sprint at a time. With that thought, she dashes off, portrait in hand, and you can almost hear her silently gasping, "If the British want this painting, they'll have to catch me first." This must have been the epitome of housewife multitasking in 1814, turning waterfront property into a potential barbecue location while simultaneously ensuring that the nation's hero graced the announcement of a very fiery calamity. And how would one even prepare for this situation? Surely it's the most comical kind of chaos, like balancing plates while roller skating. If you miss one, the whole dinner party's ruined. But Dolly is no ordinary first lady. She's a whirlwind, a one-woman concert of logistical genius amid utter absurdity, and history is her stage. As the afternoon sun hangs low, casting an almost dramatic light on the unfolding chaos, Dolly might just smile to herself. After all, if she can keep this portrait safe, she'd possibly be crowned the ultimate heroine of her time. Who needs a superhero cape when you've got Parisian flair and a heart full of tenacity? As you settle into these vivid thoughts, the flurry of footsteps, the approaching chaos, and Dolly's fierce spirit, let your mind wander into a restful sleep. Visualize this chaotic day that nearly turned into one of history's more comedic catastrophes while leaving behind all the frantic energy. After all, tomorrow might just be a painting-free kind of day, full of calm instead of cannon fire. And so, as you drift into slumber, remember that even in the most chaotic moments, laughter and bravery usually find a way to march on.
Sleep tight as the memory of Dolly's daring dash hums softly into the folds of your dreams. Chapter 10, British Mischief in the Capital. Hey guys, are you ready for another round of mildly interesting history? Tonight, we find ourselves in a moment cheekier than a cat that just knocked over your favorite coffee cup. Welcome to February 1814, when the British decided to take a little stroll through Washington, D.C., and let's just say, they brought more than just good intentions and umbrellas. Now imagine this. You step outside your cozy abode, coffee in hand, and, much to your dismay, a marching band of red-coated soldiers is parading down your street, their muskets gleaming as if they just took them out of the washing machine, minus the fabric softener, of course. Only this isn't your average parade. It's more like a heavily armed group of tourists, but instead of selfies in front of monuments, they're about to turn your beloved national treasures into kindling for their evening bonfire. But before we get all swept up in musket balls and chaos, take a moment. Have you ever tried to give future planning advice to your cat? You know it's pointless, yet you can't help but lecture, thinking maybe, just maybe, it'll make a difference. Picture that. All the fervor of a town hall meeting where everyone forgot their glasses, and you're the only one who can read the fine print. What were these British troops thinking? Oh yes, let's just casually make our way to the White House. Nothing could go wrong. So, grab your favorite blanket, dim the lights, and prepare yourself for a lively jaunt through history. Imagine that you're sitting in your very own time machine, which, for some reason, smells like cabbage soup. You shift uncomfortably in your seat, wondering what kind of shenanigans you'll find when those door creaks open. Are you ready? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1814, and let's be honest, this is not the kind of "Welcome to DC" you signed up for. As the sun peeks through the smoky haze like an awkward guest who's wandered into the wrong party, you glance out the window. It seems that the British, led by the rather dashing Major General Robert Ross, strut into town like they own the place, muskets hoisted high, eyes twinkling with glee, while the buildings around them begin to smolder like the forgotten sides of a barbecue. Ever been so confident that you confidently strutted into a friend's party, not realizing your sweatpants were inside out? Yeah, that's these guys right now. The streets are eerily quiet, like the moment before a surprise party where everyone forgot to buy cake and is now just awkwardly shuffling around, hoping someone will make the first move. The British troops march through the avenues, their enthusiasm palpable. You can practically hear the triumphant soundtrack swelling in the background, complete with horns and very heroic drum rolls. Meanwhile, you can't help but wonder, are they aware of the massive amount of paperwork that'll follow once they burn down the White House? Dear Sir, regarding the Inferno. Now, let's consider Ross's motivation. Conquering Washington, D.C. must have felt like landing a VIP ticket to the biggest show in town. It's like when you finally score that sought-after reservation at a trendy restaurant after months of booking battles, complete with all the glitz and glamour. Except instead of a fancy meal, the British troops want to set the place on fire. And boy, did they make a grand entrance. Picture them parading around in their bright, glossy uniforms. Maybe we should create a meme. You know, something like, when you arrive at the party with too much energy and no one else showed up. How do you even explain to your friends that you've just waltzed into a foreign capital, ready to cause chaos and mayhem? Oh, you know, just a casual Tuesday, destroying history, the usual stuff. With every hesitant step, Ross seems oblivious to the lingering scent of smoke and confusion wafting through the air. It's like he's got his sunglasses on inside a dark club, completely unaware that everyone is looking at him. Excuse me, sir, are you aware you're about to turn one of the most significant homes in America into a giant fire pit? But no, he's too lost in his own drama to notice. As the officers strut down the street, painting an image worthy of some renegade music video, you can almost hear a voiceover. This is a story of ambition, miscalculation, and the ultimate misunderstanding of historical significance. And speaking of misunderstandings, do you think they even knew what they were messing with? There's a certain charm in thinking that Ross and his crew believed they'd be welcomed with open arms, like a free sample stand at a grocery store. Oh dear, how's about a cannonball on the side? Let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer absurdity of it all. There these British soldiers are, marching confidently through the quiet capital, thinking they're about to win over some hearts and minds, without a single clue about the wild roller coaster history they're about to create. It's like someone showing up to a family reunion where they forgot they were the estranged cousin, every eye locked on them with popcorn in hand, just waiting to see how this is going to play out. Imagine the residents sitting silently, peeking through drawn curtains, wondering if it might be time to refill that popcorn bowl. Or maybe catch a glimpse of these sword-swinging visitors. Should we take bets on how long before they realize this isn't going well? So as you drift into the depths of slumber, let the imagery of those marching troops swirl gently through your mind. Let the absurdity of history tickle your fancy. Close your eyes and allow the chaos of tenacious soldiers and a daring spirit to rock you into rest. Tomorrow's an adventure you won't want to miss, so don't forget to snuggle in tight.
Sleep sweetly as the tales of lighthearted chaos and bravery unfold softly around you. Chapter 11. A Blaze of British Bravado. Hey guys,
Are you ready for a moment in history that's more explosive than your third cup of coffee on a Monday morning? Tonight, we're diving into the chaotic aftermath of a British invasion, where a certain British admiral, George Cockburn, thought it might be a brilliant idea to pop into the House of Representatives for a bit of light conversation. Spoiler alert, it involved a little match, a lot of mischief, and some seriously questionable hospitality. Imagine yourself stepping into the elegant chamber, adorned with intricate furnishings more luxurious than a cat's fur coat on the coldest of days. But wait, instead of civil discussions about taxes and trade, you find yourself witnessing a British admiral standing atop the speaker's chair, his silhouette dramatically outlined by flickering torchlight. This is not the intended decor. It's like finding an uninvited guest at your dinner party trying to juggle salad bowls while you've just stepped away for a snack. Ever find yourself cringing at a Netflix rom-com where the main character makes choices so baffling you can only shake your head? Well, Cockburn stomped into Washington, D.C. on an ill-fated mission. But instead of romance, we got arson. Seriously, you can't make this up. Let's set the scene. It's a balmy evening in August 1814, and the Capitol is cozy under the dim glow of torchlit chandeliers, almost begging for a touch of warmth, or at least a decent cup of tea. But Cockburn, in an unforgettable moment of historical boldness, mixed with a bit of British arrogance, descends into the house like some kind of misguided rock star. Picture him, hands on hips, exuding confidence stand-up comedians would envy. I've come to deliver a lecture, and it's about the fine art of improvised pyrotechnics. What possessed him, you wonder? Was he channeling an inner pyromaniac? Oh yes, let's just take this pristine chamber and make it an open flame zone. The torches flicker. They're about to witness history, if you can call it that. The representative members, perhaps regretting their life choices, clear their throats nervously, eyes darting around like they're about to take part in a game of hot potato, where every turn means imminent doom. Now picture the moment, just before the flames of chaos dance their way into the furniture. Cockburn stands triumphant, probably thinking he's about to become the most memorable Shakespearean villain of his time. To burn or not to burn? That is the question. Meanwhile, his troops outside are getting bored, wondering how long they have to maintain the British polite facade while waiting for their cue to set fire to, well, democracy. But as you lay back into your fluffy pillow, imagine the sounds of confusion, thuds, whispers, and the unmistakable rustle of gentlemanly clothing caught in the act of panic. Did he really just say that? Oh yes, he did. And poor decorum be damned, the very fabric of history is about to ignite. Cockburn's grand plan spirals into absurdity as he, for some reason, seems blissfully unaware that the only thing s'more flamethrower isn't a well-received guest in a place that should probably be reserved for meaningful dialogue and restful discussions. As he raises a torch high, we witness the epic disaster of an uninvited guest trying to add a surprise to the menu. Aren't we supposed to roast marshmallows first? Let's be honest here. Picture the moment before the flames lick their way toward the ornate drapery, a moment frozen in time, like that awkward pause at a family reunion when no one knows how to start a conversation. So, anyone like fire? The urgency of a "let's leave before the building actually melts" becomes palpable. And what happens next? Well, let's say you wouldn't want to light your birthday candles in this chamber anytime soon. As those flames paint shadows on the walls, you can almost hear Cockburn shrugging it off with a casual, "Well, that escalated quickly." What do you think went through the minds of the members in attendance? Were they sending frantic, praying hands emoji thoughts to their friends in Portugal? Send help? Our chamber might be out of commission after this. Or perhaps, well, this is one way to go down in history books. Remember the night we hosted the British and ended up with an unplanned bonfire? Time marches on as the chamber becomes an episode of history that wouldn't make it into the glossy catalogs, ensuring a bad Yelp review and a hard way to recover from this unsanctioned pyrotechnic display. Fantastic service, but
please don't burn down our meeting space again. Thus, dear sleepy wanderer, as you settle in for another slumber under the weight of humanity's quirks, let these fiery, slightly ridiculous musings guide your dreams. Picture George Cockburn, standing, torch in hand, pondering whether to play the role of villain or just that over-the-top party crasher. Regardless, tomorrow's tales await. Sleep sweetly as you embed yourself in the delightful absurdities of yesteryear, where reality was far more entertaining than any modern-day sitcom.
Chapter 12: Tornadoes, Hurricanes, and Unsung Heroes. Hey guys, are you ready for a moment in history that might just give you a new appreciation for your cozy couch during a storm? Tonight, we're taking a wild ride into a scenario so absurd it could easily be the plot of an early 2000s disaster movie. A hurricane and tornado teaming up together like two buddies who regrettably swiped right on Tinder and discovered they're both fans of absolute chaos. That's right, folks. This isn't just your average Tuesday in Washington, D.C. in 1814. So, grab your imaginary life jackets because we're diving deep into the stormy seas of history. Before we plunge headfirst into this tempestuous tale, take a moment to imagine life during the War of 1812. Ever wondered what could possibly happen when a bunch of war-weary soldiers is faced with a freak storm? How does one manage such a delightful cocktail of chaos while trying to hold down a capital city? Was there a weather channel back then for them to consult? Perhaps they were just guessing, looking up at the skies like modern-day weather app enthusiasts, but with more dirt and much less Wi-Fi. So, let's set the scene. It's August 24th, 1814, and you've unintentionally woken up in your own horror movie titled Extreme Weather, DC Edition. Outside, a swirling tornado is spinning through the skies like it's auditioning for the role of Tornado of Doom. You step to the window, heart racing, and it feels like Mother Nature decided to throw a tantrum worthy of an Olympic medal. You hear the roaring winds, like a rabid dog has just escaped its leash, and you can't help but wonder how in the world this city has decided to host a showdown between weather phenomena. It's like the elements were playing poker and someone just tipped over the table. Imagine the sheer confusion. Is that a cannon soaring through the air on a one-way trip to the land of what just happened? You can practically hear the townsfolk shouting, "Quick, call the mayor. Tell him we have a deposition to submit, for the good of the sculptures." Picture the scene. On one side, we've got a historic capital filled with chaotically gorgeous buildings, each one of them sheltering officials as confused as a goldfish in a hurricane. It's almost like watching a live-action choose-your-own-adventure book, except every choice leads to a doorway marked destruction. And then, as if nature itself decided to play God, the hurricane swoops in. Now, it's not just any hurricane. This one's like a competitive swimmer who decided to throw a cannonball into a kiddie pool. The water splashes everywhere, and dignity flies out the window along with the cannon. Debris is sent spiraling through the air like confetti at a birthday party gone terribly, terribly wrong. The sound of crashing wood and panicking townsfolk fills the streets. It's a live reenactment of a weather report you never wanted to see unfold. The soldiers? Oh, those poor souls must have been scratching their heads in utter disbelief. Well, we signed up to fight the British, not incorporate an aerial circus act into our schedule. And you can only imagine the exasperation building. Soldiers try to take shelter, but the rain feels like it carries the weight of 1,000 complaints from storm clouds. Umbrellas? Forget about it. Your best bet is wearing your finest piece of medieval armor and hoping for the best. Now, as the winds and rain collide with historic fervor, picture your average DC day suddenly turned into an epic rendition of The Wizard of Oz, with soldiers dodging flying barrels and four-poster beds disposed of by the entity formerly known as humidity. It's hilariously perilous. You can almost hear them yelling, "Is this some kind of elaborate British plot? Because this feels highly suspicious." And just when you think no one can get any more soaked, lightning strikes with such dramatic flair that even the most seasoned actors would be envious. It is chaos personified. And with cannonballs plummeting to the ground,
the weather has become the star of the show, overshadowing even the most spectacular pyrotechnics. As soldiers huddle together, eyes wide with confusion, someone throws their hands up. Did we just have a little tornado tussle with a hurricane? What's next? Locusts? A surprise comedy club? The absurdity of this combination of disasters reaches epic proportions, leaving everyone questioning their decisions and, dare I say, their everyday political squabbles. As the storm rages on, you realize that instead of bullets flying, it's strong winds and soggy shoes taking center stage. The ensuing catastrophe turns into a bizarre spectacle where nature seems determined to make political statements of its own. Perhaps if we just unify the tornadoes and hurricanes, mankind shall truly feel the power of a proper inconvenience. But in all this madness, something remarkable happens. The storm eventually rolls through, leaving behind a wreck of debris and cannons, but it also extinguishes the fires left by the British, securing a moment in history tragically overlooked. History sometimes has a funny way of making a scene, and we're left pondering, was this storm a crazy intervention from the divine, or just an unfortunate accident involving bad weather management tactics? So, as you continue to soak in this torrent of comedic chaos, remember this. While history can plummet into the depths of absurdity, it often spins the best tales and leaves you with a quizzical smile, maybe just a tinge of confusion, and certainly a story worth sharing. Just sleep easy tonight. After all, there are no hurricanes or tornadoes promising a visit. Or are there? Sweet dreams.
Chapter 13. The Flag That Cried Freedom. Hey guys, are you ready to drift off while learning about a piece of history so powerful it could knock your socks off? Tonight, we're diving into an adventure involving a colossal American flag, a bit of cannon fire, and a guy named Francis who should really have considered taking a vacation. Seriously, it's like a patriotic version of Survivor, and spoiler alert, nobody gets voted off the island. But they might get a bit toasted instead. Before we embark on this wild ride through smoke and valor, take a moment to picture waking up in Baltimore, 1814. Ever found yourself on a ship, wondering if you accidentally signed up for a front row seat to a fireworks spectacle gone horribly wrong? How about drifting on water, feeling a little seasick while witnessing a literal battle for freedom happening just out of reach, where out of reach translates to far too close for comfort without a life vest? Now, dim the lights, grab your favorite blankie, the one with the suspicious stain nobody wants to talk about, and let's ease into the day that witnessed the birth of the Star-Spangled Banner. Congratulations, you've just woken up in September 1814, and, spoiler alert, nobody's in for a relaxing Sunday brunch. Imagine this. It's early dawn, and you're just trying to sip your overly strong coffee on what can best be described as a bobbing tub on a turbulent sea. This is where Francis Scott Key finds himself, peering out from the deck like a concerned seagull in search of breakfast. You can practically hear him asking, "Is this the best view of the show, or am I just living an inconvenient side quest?" As the mist rolls in, shrouding everything in a curtain of mystery, you can smell the lingering gunpowder from the night before. It wafts through the air like an uninvited guest who ate all the snacks before dinner. And speaking of snacks, let's not ignore the soldiers on land, bravely manning Fort McHenry. On the one hand, they are filled with bravado, but on the other, they're probably questioning their dinner plans. Definitely not chili again, one might mutter through clenched teeth. I swear, if I survive this barrage, I'm treating myself to something that doesn't trigger my flashbacks. But first, we must address the real star of the day, the gigantic American flag. Mary Pickersgill must have had her hands full crafting that colossal symbol of hope, a massive 30 feet tall and 42 feet wide, made of wool and cotton. Not just any plain piece of cloth, it's more like Captain America's tablecloth thrown over a pie-eating contest during a particularly messy 4th of July. Such dimensions. Just imagine trying to hang that baby in a tiny apartment. Excuse me, do you have room for a large textile making a declaration of freedom? It measures the width of a small room, and I'm also looking for 8 friends to help. As dawn breaks, sunlight starts filtering through the thick haze of cannon smoke, illuminating that magnificent flag as it bravely flaps in the wind like an overzealous cheerleader at a football game. You even hear the sound of cannon fire booming in the distance, a glorious mix of the 4th of July and that awkward family reunion where Uncle Bob gets a bit too excited and accidentally sets off an early firework. And here's the absurd kicker. Throughout this backdrop of blaring cannons and explosions, Francis Scott Key begins to pen his iconic poem, completely unbothered by the situation around him. It's as if he's set up a cozy little cafe on a war-torn battlefield, thinking, this is just the place for some quality literary inspiration. Meanwhile, soldiers are dodging cannonballs like it's a weirdly aggressive game of dodgeball, and Francis is up there like, oh wait, could you not explode right now? I'm trying to capture the essence of our courage over here. You have to wonder about the thoughts whirling in Key's head as he watches the spectacle unfold. Will this poem go viral? He might ponder. Will I finally get recognition for my emotional poetry, instead of just being known as the guy who survived a cannon attack? Spoiler alert, it did, and the world ended up with one heck of a tune to belt out on the 4th of July. As the smoke slowly dissipates and the chaos begins to melt into mere memory, the sight of that flag still waving proudly at Fort McHenry offers a poignant beauty amidst the absurdity. It's a symbol not only of resilience, but of the very human capacity to carry forth hope in the face of gut-wrenching uncertainty. Kind of like trying to keep a straight face while navigating the awkward milieu of family gatherings. Except those can be even more explosive. So here is the punchline for you. Amidst explosions, smoke, and a flurry of poetic inspiration, America finds a new anthem. And meanwhile, you're grateful to know that tomorrow's breakfast likely won't involve cannon fire or existential dread. And remember, while history can often seem absurd, every moment carries the weight of humor, valor, and just a touch of sheer ridiculousness. Drift off to sleep tonight, knowing you too could face a bizarre day with remarkable bravery. Or, at the very least, come out with a story worth sharing. Sweet dreams. Chapter 14. The Peasant Love Story. A Marriage of Necessity. Hey guys, are you ready to dive into a piece of history that's more tangled than your last online dating experience? Tonight, we're setting the scene for love, or rather, a very pragmatic business arrangement circa 1300 BCE. Think of a marriage ceremony so short and sweet it could fit a tweet, if only they had Twitter. Spoiler alert, this is not the Hallmark Channel version. You won't find any doves or misty-eyed vows here. Instead, expect livestock, practicalities, and the bewildering feeling of having no say about your life partner, or your livestock arrangements for that matter. But before we embark on this awkward matrimonial escapade, let's check in with our future bride. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and thought, wow, I could totally spend the next 30 years of my life doing chores side by side with you? Yeah, me neither. And really, what kind of relationship starts with a merging of labor and land? Feel free to ponder whether you would choose true love or a few goats while you're sinking into your couch with a reassuring blanket. So, dim the lights, fluff your favorite pillow, and get cozy. If you're ready to explore life as a teenage peasant girl preparing for a marriage that feels as romantic as a root canal, then congratulations! You've just woken up in 1300 BCE, where love is less about passion and more about plowing fields together. Literally. Now, let's set the scene. The air is filled with the aroma of freshly churned butter, and you can almost hear the anxious whispers of the villagers punctuating the stillness of the early dawn. Picture yourself not in a fairy tale castle, but in a small, one-room hut, complete with thatched roof looking as though it was last fixed by a particularly careless raccoon. The walls, proudly displaying charming mud smears, stand as a testament to a hard day's labor. You can practically feel the love radiating off of those walls, in a hug me, I could use a bath kind of way. Now, look closely at the girl.
our protagonist for the evening. She's clad in simple, coarse garments, which, let's be honest, were probably woven by her great-aunt Gertrude using some questionable materials. Anything from wool to the occasional goat hair. Thank you, Uncle Mervyn, for your unending generosity. She stands there with an expression that's part terrified deer and part resolute warrior, preparing herself for a marriage that is less, "we got lost in love," and more, "welcome to the family farm, please sign these papers." Don't worry, she wasn't exactly given a choice. Imagine having your future husband chosen by a combination of land ownership and which family has the best sheep, because nothing spells romance quite like triangles of property and the chance to live next to a really nice apple tree. You can almost hear her inwardly sigh, "If I had to choose between true love or not starving to death, this seems like a solid backup plan." But let's not skip past the ceremony itself. Picture a scene that's more like a business meeting than a wedding, filled with awkward glances and a fair share of livestock. Do you, Ethel, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Or at least the guy who will help you plow the fields? The words ring through the air, echoing with the weight of tradition, while a nearby goat munches thoughtfully on someone's cloak. Yes, my friends, the wedding guests are multitasking. Solemnity and goat watching. Now that's peak medieval entertainment. There's no music orchestrating emotions here, aside from the occasional sneeze from an old man in the back who probably mistook the ceremony for a hay fever convention. And just when you think it can't get any more charming, you hear the priest mutter, "Now, about that dowry." Ah yes, the beloved negotiation, where "I promise to take care of her" translates to "I expect 3 goats and some barley. Deal?" If I may add a twist for the already dramatic, can you envision love-worn Ethel daydreaming while someone eyeballs the family's prized pig for her dowry? And just like that, Ethel's transition from free-spirited girl to the property of a hardy lad named Mortimer is sealed with a simple yes, and a healthy dose of realism. Spoiler alert, Mortimer may not be perfect, but he can definitely haul hay like a champion. And let's face it, that's a coveted trait around here. As the ceremony wraps up, you can hear the joyous, or is it mildly resigned, laughter from the gathering. What's better than the sound of a peasant wedding where expectations meet true grit? Just think of this as a high-stakes game of bingo, except instead of calling out numbers, they're more likely shouting about who can provide the best butter churn recipes. So here's the punchline for you. Ethel just accepted a lifetime commitment to her new husband, with the assurance of low romance and high agricultural productivity. Because, at the end of the day, who needs love when you can have a field full of turnips and a moderately decent amount of wool? Drift off to sleep tonight, knowing that history is full of these pragmatic choices, while you get to wake up tomorrow with all the freedom to choose your own breakfast. Sweet dreams of livestock, lively weddings, and questionable life choices abound. Life choices.
Chapter 15. Sorta Medieval Midwives and the Mystery of the Crocodile Charms. Hey guys, are you ready to leap into a moment more chaotic than a cat chasing its tail at a dog park? Tonight, we find ourselves in a dimly lit medieval hut. Yes, that's right. Welcome to prenatal class circa 1300 BCE, where the ambience is moody, the seating is limited, and the waiting room features a very attentive goat. Spoiler alert, childbirth isn't exactly the Instagram moment you might expect. In fact, prepare for more sweat and nerves than a high school dance, minus the punch bowl and awkward slow songs. But first, a quick heads up. If you enjoy this peculiar journey through time, let's call it a historical nap venture, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. But only if you actually enjoy this delightful blend of laughter and shenanigans. Dim the lights, curl up with your favorite blanket, and get comfy as we dive headfirst into a place filled with birthing mamas, dismissive midwives, and perhaps a bit of crocodile dung sprinkled for good measure. Now, you might be wondering, What were the midwives of the medieval period like? Were they just ancient doulas with a side hustle in odd herbal remedies? Did they have soothing mantras, or was it more like, push harder or we'll summon the local wildlife? And speaking of wildlife, what's the deal with crocodile dung being part of ancient contraceptive methods? Ever had to awkwardly bring that up during a dinner party? Let's venture on, shall we? Congratulations. You've just woken up in a cramped medieval hut in the year 1300 BCE. Unsurprisingly, the first thing you notice is the smell. Let's just say it's a blended fragrance of hay, sweat, and a hint of desperation. You're surrounded by women who, to put it mildly, are more invested in the process than you are, with one midwife at the helm clutching a saint's charm like it's the last life buoy on the Titanic. You gaze around, witnessing an impromptu congregation complete with excited whispers punctuated by the occasional muffled grunt. The walls are made of mud and straw, with a roof that seems to sag under the weight of, well, everything really. The low wooden stool in the center of the room isn't exactly a throne fit for a queen. It's more akin to a sturdy pile of splinters, so bring your courage and perhaps a cushion. Let's get to our soon-to-be mother, shall we? Picture her, hair tied back, wearing a coarse tunic that seems to double as a potato sack. You can see her gripping the charm tightly, obviously for luck, or maybe because it's the closest thing she has to a morale booster right now. Just breathe, she must be thinking, as she's likely not even halfway to earning her honorary midwifery degree. With every contraction, she's surrounded not by serene chanting, but the energetic commentary of her companions, who might be more concerned about the status of dinner than the miraculous creation of life. The midwife, bless her heart, is attempting to maintain professionalism while also batting away the persistent goat that seems determined to join the party. "This isn't a petting zoo," you can almost hear her yell, each word punctuated by the sauntering goat's bleat as it surveys the scene like an overly curious houseguest. Forget about tender words. This is a wild card environment where everyone is trying to keep it together, and it feels like a medieval version of a circus act. Amidst the chaos, let's not gloss over the charm of the crocodile dung. Yes, you heard that right. This fascinating bit of history tells us that ancient cultures had some curious contraceptive practices, and believe it or not, dried crocodile dung was at the top of the list. You want to avoid a future with more children than fingers? Dung is your answer. Sounds like a slogan right out of a medieval sales brochure. Imagine a late-night infomercial for this invention. But wait, there's more. Get a second pouch of dried crocodile dung when you order now. We can all agree that isn't likely flying off the shelves in your local apothecary. Now let's chat about the waiting companions surrounding our mother. Their prayers echo as if they were reciting an ancient spell to ward off evening snacking or unsolicited company. Each whimper from the mother is met with reactions that range from horror to enthusiasm. It's as if you stumbled into an offbeat game show where the prize is the opportunity for a free baby. Will she deliver before the goat turns back into a pumpkin? It's as tense as a reality show cliffhanger. As she squeezes out a future peasant, you can hear the chants of, "Breathe through it," floating through the hut. But let's be honest, these women are dealing with a situation that probably includes a whole lot of just hold your breath and think about the turnips you'll be harvesting one day. As more grunts punctuate the air, excitement builds. What if the little one arrives sporting a goat-like hairdo? These are the joys and wonders of medieval motherhood. And just like that, success. The baby arrives, and you realize childbirth in the medieval period has one key takeaway. Thank heavens for goats, muddled charms, and a little bit of crocodile dung for good measure. As the midwife puffs out her chest proudly, like she just won the Super Bowl of childbirth, you have to wonder, would anyone sign up for this job willingly? So tonight, as you rest your weary head, remember that childbirth may come with an overwhelming dose of chaos and hilarity. Because while giving birth in a straw-filled hut might not make it to any modern-day birthing class, it sure does make for an unforgettable tale of human resilience. sweet dreams of historical hilarity and the occasional goat. Chapter 16: The Muddy Fields and the Mysterious Art of Swaddling. Hey guys, tonight we're about to wade into a tale muddier than a pig in a pothole. And trust me when I say you're in for a heartwarming slice of life from the ancient peasant world. Picture yourself there, knee-deep in the muck of the 1300 BCE fields, where the crops are about as reliable as a one-eyed rooster, and the sun isn't quite sure if it's up for this whole shining business. So, take a moment to stretch out on your favorite pillow, let the slow lapping of history wash over you, and imagine what it would be like surrounded by these tireless farming warriors. You might be asking yourself, how does one breastfeed while plowing? Is it socially acceptable to name your child after a particularly hard turnip? And what's with the swaddling? Is it a fashion statement, or just a desperate attempt to keep tiny arms from flailing about in search of the nearest mud puddle? Let's snuggle down into this historical adventure, shall we? Congratulations! You've just woken up in a sun-soaked, muddy field circa 1300 BCE, where workdays are witheringly long, and the lead entertainment is watching the chickens chase each other in circles. You glance around to find a peasant mother named Igatha, precariously balanced between the demands of agrarian life and the needs of her swaddled infant, who appears comfortably strapped to her back, as if they're both about to embark on an epic quest. Or possibly a really complicated yoga session. Igatha's a marvel of multitasking. As she plunges the plow into the ground, the sea of muddy earth gives way with more resistance than last week's batch of sourdough starter at the local bakery. Each time she pulls back, the soil clings as if hoping she'll change her mind about planting carrots. And let's be honest, if you've ever tried to wrestle a garden hose to the ground, you know this isn't exactly a walk in the park. Plowing? More like the ancient version of an obstacle course, one where tiny boulders and a baby's whimper are the prime contestants. Now, what's that memorable sound? Oh, it's just the delightful symphony of squelching mud, a thorough soundtrack to any peasant's life. Each plowshare hits the earth with a squelch, echoing a sound reminiscent of someone trying to get a stubborn lid off a jar of pickles. And as she pauses to breastfeed, she quickly rewards her infant with a brief snack before they both settle back into the rhythm of a day's work. Because what's the best way to bond in an ancient field? A hearty meal during labor, of course. Imagine the look on the faces of her fellow workers if they could see her now. Oh, look at Igatha. She's got a baby in her back and a carrot in her hand. It's not multitasking, it's farming ninja skills. If only she had a swaddled diploma hanging on her hut wall, maybe folks would stop asking why her baby is wearing last year's harvest as a fashionable accessory. As she pushes on, her head filled with the complex calculations of whether it's worth it to plant more turnips, or maybe just settle for a lifetime supply of dirt, you chuckle at the thought. Does she ever consider trading in her plow for a more leisurely profession? Maybe an amateur philosopher? I contemplate the nature of carrots, man, she might muse while catching her breath, taking a slight detour to the ancient equivalent of a break room, or perhaps the local mud pie competition. But wait, let's not forget about the delightful scent wafting through the fields. Spoiler alert, it's not coming from a bakery. It's the unmistakable odor of wet earth, mixed with the subtle, unmistakable tang of sweat. And to be perfectly honest, a hint of disdain for laundry day. Have you ever caught a whiff of something that made you question life's choices? Igatha has them all around her as she digs deeper into the soil, wondering if this will finally be the year the crops flourish, or if this is just another chapter in her noble struggle against stubborn seeds. Truly, being a peasant gloriously demonstrates the art of perseverance mixed with a dash of humor. Between moving heavy plows, tying up loose ends like swaddling, and dealing with an infant who is an expert at trending fits, Igatha bears it all. It's a delicate balancing act between nurturing the future generation and wrestling with a stubborn, dirt-footed past. She can't help but wonder, though, will that baby even appreciate the effort when they're off plowing their own fields someday?
Or will they just roll their eyes and reminisce about the days when their biggest worry was simply getting a meal without stepping in something that once belonged to a goat? Yes, indeed. As she lifts her tools above her head and squints into the distance, you realize this is but a typical day in the life of a 1300 BCE peasant. It's a story of dirt, determination, and just a hint of maternal magic that binds it all together, ensuring that even through the chaos, their legacy will sprout like a weed in the warm sun. So the next time you're grappling with a simple task like folding laundry or making dinner plans, just remember Igatha. She's out there, conquering muddy fields, keeping her baby cozy, and plotting out a future filled with carrots and dirty boots. And she's doing it all without a manual. Because, surprise, life in 1300 BCE had no return policies or customer service hotlines. And if you think about it, maybe we all could use a bit of her stubborn spirit sprinkled into our modern chaos, wrapped up in a muddy hug and a whole lot of laughter and a whole lot.
Chapter 17. The Noble Nursery and the Royal Art of Maternal Multitasking. Hey guys, tonight we're about to slip into a historical nursery fresher than a baby duckling's first bath and sillier than a jester on a pogo stick. Yes, that's right. We're diving into the cozy world of noble wet nurses in 1300 BCE, where comfort coexists with royal responsibilities and the future of dynasties hangs by the thread of germ-free linens. If you think your struggle to get the kids to nap is tough, how would you handle the challenge of securing your lineage while a fussy baby wants nothing more than to test the volume of their most piercing shriek? So, settle in, dim those lights, and crank up the fan if the heat of history starts to make you sweat. We're about to experience the delightful contradictions of motherhood and nobility, where the stakes are national, yet so are the diapers. Ever wondered how a noble woman balances her time between birthing heirs and ensuring her chateau doesn't turn into a glorified daycare? What kind of snack does a royal wet nurse serve? Golden truffles or simply stale bread with a side of castle dust? And just how many royal decrees does it take to ensure there are no muddy footprints on the freshly waxed castle floors? Spoiler alert, a lot. And it's as complicated as a pea trying to grow in a drought. Congratulations, you've just woken up in a cozy nursery located in a noble castle, circa 1300 BCE. The walls are draped in rich tapestries that can make a peasant weep with jealousy, and the air smells faintly of lavender mixed with the distinct odor of, well, baby. As you look around, you see plush bedding and the gently flickering light of a nearby candle illuminating the room like the softest, most understated Instagram filter. In the corner, you spot the royal wet nurse, whose title sounds fancier than it is, diligently feeding a chubby-cheeked infant. She's adept and graceful, an embodiment of the word multitasking, as she balances a soft breast on one side while her other hand juggles her own slice of the narrow, noble world, making a mental note of any potential royal tantrums that might arise later. Now, let's ponder the strangest question of all. Why do they call it a wet nurse? Is that so future generations will get their giggles in about the past? Is there a secret collective of medieval nursemaids who sit around forming buzzwords while embroidering their finest gossip on delicate linens? We may never know. But for our royal nurse, the job comes with a unique set of responsibilities: combating colicky cries, fending off curious nobles, and discreetly dodging the not-so-subtle demands of a mother who may or may not be preparing for a next pregnancy while holding a goblet of wine. Because nothing says maternal readiness like a hearty vintage. As you settle into this royal nursery, hear the sounds of cooing babies mixed with the occasional desperate squawk of a ruffled mama bird echoing outside. You find yourself contemplating how the babies of nobles are just a tad different than the average peasant's child. Like, for starters, do noble infants have their own tiny thrones? Or is it simply a lavishly embroidered cushion on the floor while their nurse feeds them? The truth is always stranger than fiction, my friend. And speaking of fiction, Just as the wet nurse is about to soothe a wailing child with an ancient lullaby perfected over countless sleepless nights, you can't help but wonder, what if these poor babies already have more stress than we do? The pressure of ensuring they don't cry too loudly and disrupt the diplomacy negotiations taking place in the next room. Hilariously high stakes for some rather unassuming baby noises. But don't get too caught up in the melodrama. Let's shift gears and talk about the food situation. This noble wet nurse isn't just providing milk. She's essentially the royal chef of baby bites. And I'd wager her menu is as diverse as a local tavern's on Friday night, only with more mashed peas and less worm-infested stew. There are berries, probably hand-picked, soft cheeses, good luck finding mold-free, and possibly even a few bites of leftover pigeon pie, because you can't waste royalty's leftovers, can you? Now, outside the nursery's grand oak door, the world carries on, with knights pretending to be tough and nobles arranging their noble business in a power struggle reminiscent of a child arguing over who gets the last biscuit. Forget tying down the succession line. They have to keep the peace on who gets the toy lance that's not really a toy, but definitely not a lance either. As your mind floats back to the nursery, picture this noble wet nurse dropping a slice of wisdom to the bubbling infant. "Listen here, dear," she murmurs as she rocks the baby. "If you're going to inherit a kingdom someday, you better master the art of public relations, especially from the comfort of my lap." Right under her nose, babies are plotting government reforms while demanding fresh milk. And all the while, she's contemplating taking a well-deserved break without any royal midwives hovering nearby. Would she have a glass of wine, perfectly chilled? Or is that just something nobles do on the sly, pretending to sip tea? And at the end of the day, when the little ones are sound asleep and the mother takes a well-deserved stroll on the castle grounds, you recognize the wet nurse's silent nod to the vastness of motherhood, regardless of the century. Because whether you're a noble or a peasant, the challenge of raising children remains timeless, one day at a time, drizzled with humor and fortified with a whole lot of love. As you drift deeper into this royal nursery bubbling with stories, remember this simple yet profound truth. Every blanket fort built within castles, whether of silk or straw, harbors not just princes and princesses, but the hopes, joys, and delightful absurdities that bind them together in this timeless adventure called parenthood. Chapter 18. A Mother's Mourning Among the Crocs and Camels. Hey guys, tonight we're drifting into a moment more emotional than a cat video on a rainy day. A grieving medieval mother kneeling at a modest wooden cross, praying for the soul of her unbaptized child. That's right, picture a scenario so heavy with sorrow it makes your last family Thanksgiving look like a casual barbecue. Before we dive deep into this story, consider this. Have you ever woken up in a sweat? Not because you had a nightmare about missing an important meeting, which, by the way, stinks more than a sack of persistently bad apples, but because you realized your formative years were all spent in hot, claustrophobic classrooms where no one told you how to deal with actual adult emotions. What would it be like to have your child, your complete little bundle of hope, lost to the unforgiving whims of fate? Would your teardrops dissolve into the mud beneath your knees? Or would you metaphorically shake your fist at the sky as if demanding an explanation from a very uninterested thundercloud? Let's not even start talking about prayer. What's the etiquette for addressing the Almighty while holding a protective amulet like it's a Hogwarts acceptance letter? One must be precise. Dear God, please save my baby from limbo. But then you have to consider how many syllables you can fit into a pleading, sincere wail. You can't exactly throw an angry toddler tantrum here. So, dim those lights, or crank up the essential oil diffuser if that's your kind of vibe. Get comfortable, because we're about to immerse ourselves in the fragrant musk of a medieval village in heartbreaking disarray, where hopes hang in the air like the smell of neighborly stew cooking on a damp afternoon. Congratulations! You've just woken up circa 1300 CE, amidst the dramatic and deeply solemn act of a mother's mourning, in a village buzzing with life, yet steeped in suffering.
With heavy, mournful clouds pressing in around you, the air feels thick with anticipation and gloom. It's the sort of atmosphere that makes you want to grab a slice of bread, some tea, and perhaps write an angry letter to whoever's in charge of the whole life and death situation. The mother knelt at the small wooden cross, hand grasping the protective amulet. It glimmers slightly, as if winking at the absurdity of trying to summon favor from a higher power, while also fending off a whole realm of fears. What lies ahead for her child? Limbo? A place where souls hang out with exceedingly bored celestial beings who just want to trade life stories about how they surrendered to eternal questions. It sounded less than appealing, to say the least. As she accepted the burden of both prayer and worry, you can't help but envision her trying to keep track of all the various rituals and superstitions she'd been taught. After all, every community has its quirks. The locals likely have a few ironic devils, advocates among them, fabricating soothing myths of afterlife journeys to prepare one for every conceivable outcome. Kind of like a medieval pep rally gone bizarrely awry. Nearby, the clanging sound of a makeshift bell captured your attention, though it faintly resembled someone desperately trying to revive a rooster with a particularly jangly attitude. Perhaps it was the herbalist reminding the villagers to purchase their remedies for ailments, although everyone seems to have an ailment that could only be fixed with a good tune of a lute and a pint of ale. Realistically, an annual festival flipping between merriment and mourning like a local pub on trivia night was the prescribed medicine for hard times. And speaking of the villagers, let's not forget our fearfully pragmatic friends. You can just imagine them whispering about their neighbor's misfortune while stirring their porridge. "Did you hear? Lucy lost her child. Bet she didn't properly bless that amulet." Then they roll their eyes and slosh a spoonful of honey into their gruel. Because nothing soothes the soul quite like balancing bad news with a touch of indulgent carbs, right? Yet it's the mother's moment of vulnerability that pulls you back into the heart of the matter. Each prayer spoken, each tear shed feels weightier amidst the crush of life all around her. Laughter rumbles from a few gleeful children playing nearby, completely oblivious to her heartbreak. Perhaps one of them will grow up to invent a rather nonsensical remedy for a bad day, a tonic made of crocodile dung mixed with a sprinkle of something nice, because the medieval world thought it wise to balance misery with more absurdity. If you think you're stressed with deadlines at work, consider this. Medieval mothers had only one firm deadline, and it came with the sharp sting of eternal uncertainty. As she clutched that amulet, the fear of limbo loomed larger than the village's community bonfire, flickering ominously in the background. Fear of losing a child to unbaptism was as prevalent as a whiff of soup when the only thing you wanted was a plush pillow to cry into. At last, beneath that wooden cross, the mother resolved to let the emotions flow, declaring, "Today, I might scream at the clouds." Unbeknownst to her, the wind, in a rare moment of empathy, scattered her words to the ears of a more merciful divinity who, rather than condemning her, chuckled softly and said, "Let's get creative with that prayer." Listen closely, dear dreamer, for this tale explores far beyond tears into a tapestry riddled with hope, the quest for understanding, and the sheer ridiculousness of superstitions that trail through history, aching for laughter just as much as closure. So next time you ponder your own blend of troubles, remember, in the grand history of humankind, patience and absurdity often walk hand in hand, like a divine duo, bringing light to the heaviest of tales. And know this, laughter
And prayer really do go places. Stay tuned as we lift our gaze to the next delightful chapter of mildly interesting history, where the absurd meets the profound, leaving you chuckling as you settle into that oh-so-comfy embrace of slumber. Chapter 19, Woolly Whirls and Motherly Chills. Hey guys, tonight we're entering a realm where the term schooling requires more woolly sweaters than a knitting circle on a frigid eve. Imagine it, a medieval kitchen so dark you could lose a small child in there, Though, judging by the amount of wool around, you might just find a stray sheep instead. Welcome to the land of spinning wheels, stern faces, and educational tactics that would make even the most patient modern-day teacher sigh and say, "I just wanted to teach basic math." So grab your imaginary distaff and wield it like a medieval warrior preparing for a duel. The duel of domestic responsibility. Because tonight, we're diving into the world of practical skills taught by a mother who firmly believes that a good day starts with wool. And let's be honest, wouldn't it be marvelous to have life skills like that? What if you had the authority to decide what your children will use as their career path? You want to be an astronaut? Nah, how about a junior distaff expert instead? Now, take a moment to dim those lights and take a comfy seat on whatever throne you've fashioned for yourself, be it a plush couch or an old outdoor chair that your neighbor insistently forgot to take back. Feel free to let your mind wander. What sounds fill the room? The hum of a spinning wheel? The soft murmur of a cat plotting its next mischievous act? Or perhaps the distant echo of someone complaining about the local bread not rising because they forgot the magic ingredient? Patience? Imagine navigating through medieval life. How would you handle the pressure of mastering the art of crafting wool into something wearable? Ever accidentally turned a lifetime's worth of fibers into a deranged scarf, resembling something out of a horror movie? Feel the thrill of your mother's narrowed gaze upon you as you struggle with that distaff, half expecting to hear, "You call that spinning? I can barely tell if that's wool or a particularly shaggy mop." Congratulations! You've just awoken in 1300 CE, where educational techniques resemble an intense family intervention combined with a fiber arts fair gone terribly wrong. The scene could be described as cozy, if you don't mind the lingering scent of soot and the occasional goat blocking your path. Here in the kitchen, light flickers from a hearth that looks like it might spit out more smoke than warmth. There's a pot of something brewing suspiciously close to boiling over, its contents browning faster than you'd like, and trust, it won't be winning any culinary awards tonight. As you wander nearer, you see a stern-faced mother silently demonstrating the fine art of wool spinning. You can practically hear her internal monologue, a delightful swirl of harsh yet wise make-believe. Now, young lass, should you dare to drop this wool on the floor, it might just roll away into the obscurity reserved for forgotten socks. Trust me, I've lost 3 whole skeins to a particularly ambitious chicken. The distaff hangs like an oversized toothpick defining the awkward geometry of her purpose. You can see her grip tightening as she talks through the art of it all. You must spin this until the fibers entwine like the intertwining fates of all those who dared cross into this kitchen. Yes, weaving is basically life lessons with a side of sarcasm, the ultimate skill-based parenthood model. Let's linger in this delightful moment. It's far more than just teaching. It's a masterclass in the fine balance between productivity and parental patience. The kitchen seems to hum with hopeful anticipation, a space furnished with worn wooden tables and the slight chance of accidentally stirring in a forgotten mouse. Delightful. But watch out, this isn't the simplistic world of math problems. Life here has stakes, like accidentally creating a woolen beast instead of a sweater. So, how does the young daughter respond? Perhaps with the grace of a startled cat jumping into a pile of laundry. Can you picture it? The flailing hands, the predatory gaze of a disapproving mother, and just a touch of medieval chaos as the wool flies free, much like your last New Year's Eve resolution for tidiness. And let's not forget the proud traditions that inevitably circle back to the world of practical skills. Spinning wool wasn't simply a hobby, it was a matter of survival, much like those absurd asking prices for avocado toast in the modern day. It was like saying, if you could spin wool before lunch, congratulations, you might just survive the winter. Hope you're excited about living on porridge and dreams. As the daughter spins, the mother watches intently. "It's about discipline," she exclaims, though her tone wavers somewhere between, "I want you to succeed," and "Who gives up on dinners like this?" It's the medieval parenting dichotomy.
push your child to greatness while simultaneously considering a knitting circle for "my child hates wool" support. Amid this dynamic, laughter rolls like a quiet breeze through the kitchen, because that's what you do when life twists and turns into a bizarre, woolly adventure. Every twirl of the distaff flings echoes of failure and folly into the air, as both mother and daughter bond over the fact that mistakes might just lead to the best stories, much like the ancient lore of glorious medieval warriors, albeit with more fuzzy sweaters involved. And thus, in this wool-spun kitchen of medieval life, the lesson gently fades. It's about more than just creating garments. It's about telling tales woven with laughter, love, and the occasional offbeat mishap, leading to the revelation that sometimes life and lessons are swirled together like a pot of boiling mystery stew, just one that smells oddly familiar, yet always yields unexpected flavors. So, whether you're a spin master in the kitchen or just trying to keep the house
From looking like a yarn bomb exploded, remember, in the grand play of life, every tangle often leads to a tale worth telling, especially if it involves the ridiculous attempt to make woolen socks that actually fit. Stay tuned for our next oddly compelling chapter, one that might float your boat, hopefully without capsizing it. Chapter 20. The Crystal Clarity of Ancient Curiosities. Hey guys, tonight we're diving deeper than the mysteries of your last family dinner where Aunt Mildred confused diet soda for holy water. Picture this: a dimly lit chamber in ancient Assyria where scholars are squinting at cuneiform tablets like they're deciphering their ex's text messages after a night out. Welcome to history's version of an eye exam, casually taking place 5,000 years ahead of its time, where the most advanced educational tool looks like a particularly shiny cheese plate. Before we get lost in the ancient wonders, go ahead and give that like button a gentle nudge, subscribe if you're feeling adventurous, and comment your favorite piece of ancient trivia. Only if you actually enjoy this, of course. Now, dim those lights, turn on that fan for appropriate ambient chill, and get cozy. Grab a blanket or imaginary cape. You may need it as we explore what life was like for ancient scholars. Have you ever cursed a modern smartphone for being both helpful and utterly confusing? Imagine not having one at all, and instead, relying on your expertly polished crystal lens to tackle the mysteries of the universe. Ever tried reading fine print in a dimly lit room with bane-worthy eyesight? It's like wandering through a museum at night without your glasses, desperately hoping for a miracle. Or maybe you've been there, realizing that squinting at recipe directions only leads to culinary chaos. Did I just add salt or an entire bottle of paprika? Now, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1300 BCE, where the advent of sophisticated lenses marks the dawn of a new era in scholarly pursuits. You see before you the proud owner of the Nimrud lens, a rock crystal polished smoother than your favorite comedian's routine. A scholarly genius, perhaps debatable, named Laban stands in his dimly lit space, holding this ancient magnifier as if it were the last piece of warp-chasing technology before the invention of the wheel. The air in the room is thick with the scent of baked clay tablets. Think pottery meets the whiff of ancient mystery. You're enveloped in an atmosphere where every scratch of the stylus is a minor miracle. This was the quiet wax-on, wax-off of Assyrian education, folks. You've got Laban squinting and holding his gleaming crystal lens up to his eye, ready to embark on a deciphering escapade. His gaze darts from cuneiform tablets to the burning oil lamp, desperately trying not to catch a whiff of the local goat's daily aroma, which could only be described as distressingly potent. Can you imagine the struggles of deciphering ancient texts? It's a wonder he didn't just accidentally read garlic instead of garden while pondering agricultural innovations. Honestly, you'd have better luck picking out lottery numbers. Laban's modern-day equivalent could easily be a 21st century optometrist offering free eye exams with an ominous warning. One pair of glasses, or you could end up on a wild goose chase for ancient scrolls that may not even exist. Because here's the reality.
Certain translations may be like reading through your friend's text messages after one too many drinks. They just might end up making no sense whatsoever. And how does Laban's excitement compare to your Monday morning coffee craving? It's like finding that extra shot of espresso in your daily grind. Except no real caffeine boost will come from his discoveries. Every word he lays eyes on over the lens makes historians of the future geek out over kitchen terms that could mean "bring me bread" or "this beetroot needs another season." The stakes are spectacularly high and hilariously mundane at the same time. As you glide through moments with magical intellectualism, Laban places the lens against an inscribed tablet, the feel of cool crystal against parchment-like clay, like a master painter aligns their brush for a canvas that will never forget its origins. The candlelight flickers. The weight of ambition hangs like an unwelcome guest at a dinner party, waiting for the right moment to bring up politics. Laban leans in closer, squinting more than your grandmother at the crossword, and whispers, "Eureka!" Or perhaps, "This really is just a shopping list." Now imagine how life unfolded when something went wrong. Laban tries to explain a revolutionary thought to his fellow scholars, only for it to turn into a game of ancient telephone. "Did you catch that it's about increasing crop yields?" Someone inquires. "Wait, crop what? I thought he said it's the newest flavor of flatbread." So as Laban squints, exaggerated tales of farming tips and poetic laments swirl in the air, filled with gravitational uncertainty. Is he busy giving advice on how to turn 3 willow branches into a makeshift harpoon? Well, he might as well be, with all the metaphoric baggage he's carrying. And listen, he's just here to magnify knowledge, but sometimes discovering how to make an efficient plow feels a touch like trying to take a bubble bath in a kiddie pool. It should work, but somehow it leaves you feeling more perplexed than refreshed. Now let's just imagine that while Laban's focused on scholarly achievements, his neighbor bursts in complaining about the lack of watermelons in the markets. "I swear I brought in the harvest 5 times this year." Clearly, the scholarly pursuits of 1300 BCE involve both ambition and tragedy, one that revolves around complicated letters rather than complicated relationships. As candle burns lower and the hours pass, you find a connection with Laban through the wondrous mismatches in communication, just like texts that can leave you pondering, did they really mean to invite me to dinner, or merely lament their destiny of lonesome snacks? And perhaps, as you drift away from Laban's diligent
simplicity, you can chuckle softly, thinking about how the ancient world, with its polished lenses and scholarly debates, mirrors modern struggles to understand the esoteric jargon of marketing emails. In a world where clear views are priceless, let's agree that sometimes a crystal vision can only take you so far, especially when all you were looking for was the grocery list. And so, dear listener, as we settle here in this moment of ancient clarity, remember, whether it's understanding history or deciphering life's confusing details, a bit of humor and a polished lens might just be the trick to spark your dreams. Chapter 21. The Squinting Monk and His Crystal Visions. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy little corner of history, where the ancient world is as predictable as your cousin's karaoke night after 3 too many glasses of cheap wine. Tonight, we dive into the sunlit scribbles of a medieval monk whose spectacles are so crooked that they might as well be stepping out of a Shakespearean comedy. Imagine this, an Italian monk balancing the wisdom of the ages atop his nose while trying not to fall into the abyss of confusion during his latest manuscript endeavor. Spoiler alert, it's a wild read, but very much lacks the plot twist of a How to Survive on a Diet of Mystery Herbs manual. Before we jump into our medieval scriptorium adventure, where the ink is guaranteed to stain your fingers, so you better not let anyone catch you stealing the quills. Don't forget to give that like button a gentle nudge, subscribe if you're here for the long haul, and share your favorite literacy blunders in the comments. But only if you actually enjoy this. Now, as you sink further into your chair, you might wonder how this monk deals with daily distractions. Does he have a favorite snack? Perhaps a holy avocado toast? Or is he tiptoeing around fellow monks who might accidentally set fire to their robes, humming a tune only vaguely reminiscent of Tchaikovsky? What about his glasses? Are they truly helping him focus? Or does he find himself squinting more than a cat in a laser pointer battle? Congratulations, you've just woken up in the serene echo of a sunlit scriptorium around 1300 CE. The buzz of activity surrounds you, as fellow scribes spill ink in a chaotic but beautiful mess, a tactile dance underscored by the occasional muffled grunt or sneeze, courtesy of the scriptorium's dust motes. As you blink away the confusion, you spot your new friend, Brother Giovanni, who looks strikingly similar to a reincarnated owl feasting on artisan pastries. He squints through his primitive spectacles, which you can imagine were crafted from something akin to last night's soup bowl. Nestled amongst piles of parchment paper that smell like old cheese, you didn't want to know, Brother Giovanni sits at a rickety wooden desk, scratching away at a finely illuminated manuscript. His vision, blessed or cursed, rides on the unforgiving slopes of those lenses. Every time he leans in closer, you can't help but wonder if he's deciphering ancient wisdom, or just trying to determine if that stain is from last night's dinner or a new art project gone horrifically awry. Let's take a moment to appreciate the craftsmanship of these early spectacles, made of convex glass that is neither ultra-cool nor Instagram-worthy. Can you picture how these glasses are more reliable than half your friends' opinions on where to find the best pizza? Giovanni's lenses likely flirt with the idea of clarity, but instead offer up a delightful take on the question, what did I actually write here? It's like that time you confidently texted your boss a meme instead of the quarterly report. Eep! As Brother Giovanni gives a hearty sigh, a sound that echoes through the hall like an angry ghost with a penchant for existential dilemmas, he buries his head in the text, muttering about the virtues of scribing. You almost want to ask him if he's ever made a copy of a sacred text, only to realize it was his grocery list instead. Ah yes, the delicate balance between preserving sacred knowledge and figuring out if we need more flour. Moving along, the candlelight flickers, casting odd shadows that seem to come alive in the corners of the room. You can hear the whisper of the parchment as Giovanni inspects it closely, which only adds to the classic drama of the medieval scriptorium. One poorly timed sneeze means hours rewriting the first few lines, while trying to decode any bread recipes that accidentally got copied along the way. Ever tried cleaning your glasses with a napkin that promptly decided to smudge them instead? Imagine, if you will, Giovanni coming to the sudden realization that on the parchment he thought had ancient texts of knowledge, it actually reads, 1 loaf of bread, 2 pounds of cheese, and 3 misquotes from Plato. It adds a whole new layer of humor to the philosophical quandaries of the medieval world. But wait, let's delve deeper. Given that this is the 1300s, what if you added a hint of drama by imagining pigeons flocking through the window, stealing the monk's lunch like tiny feathered bandits? Suddenly it's a race against time. Conjecture. Or is it just the ever-present threat of lunchtime raids by our winged adversaries? Giovanni sighs again, but this time with more of a chuckle. Ah, the mysteries of existence. Or perhaps I was just hungry. If you think this only scratches the surface, remember that medieval life was basically like trying to assemble a computer without any instructions. You thought your Wi-Fi was spotty? Brother Giovanni certainly knew the true meaning of uncertainty when there was yet another debate about whether the earth was flat or just exceptionally well-cooked pasta. And if he ever overheard a scholarly rant that he had yet to decipher, you could bet he would be the one muttering about spies dressed as mice, infuriated at their poor choice in pizza toppings. So there you have it. Amidst grainy papyrus, squinty eyes, and deeply profound thoughts about the merits of rye versus spelt for bread making, life in the scriptorium takes on a wonderfully absurd charm filled with attempted wisdom, cultural food fights, and shuddered laughs from acrobatic pigeons swarming in on lunch. As you glaze over these moments of history, it's impossible not to draw parallels to your daily life.
where each day is a new script about deciphering whether you genuinely want to make a salad or could just mash all the leftover pizza into a
hovercraft of carbs. Do the harmony of absurdity and practicality reign together? Here's hoping as you cradle your cozy blanket and drift toward that sweet sleep of oblivion, savoring the whimsy in your own messy manuscript of life. Chapter 22: The Spectacle of Hans Lippershey's Ingenious Glasses. Hey guys, welcome back to our little hideaway of history, where the past is just as entertaining as a cat video gone viral, and just as messy too. Tonight, we embark on a journey that's clearer than your morning after reflection, the tale of Hans Lippershey and his breakthrough invention, something that's not only intriguing but also slightly absurd, like the idea of your parents trying to understand TikTok. Picture this: a cluttered workshop in the Netherlands around the early 17th century, where the air is thick with the scent of wood shavings and a hint of desperation. Lippershey, a humble spectacle maker, has just stumbled upon something that would make him infinitely more famous than the time you accidentally drank pickle juice thinking it was apple juice. Spoiler alert, it's not. Before we dive in, don't forget to give that like button a gentle tap. Subscribe if you enjoy this little voyage through mildly interesting history. And drop a comment if you've ever mistaken one food for another. Because let's face it, we've all been there. Now, imagine Hans standing there, wild hair and all, amidst an explosion of spectacles in various states of assembly. Is he thinking about the great philosophical questions of the universe? Or is he simply trying to fight off a particularly aggressive pigeon that has taken a liking to his left shoe? Either way, he's got something to show us tonight. Oh, but life back then. How did people deal with their spectacles fogging up? Were there heated debates over which style was best? A wooden frame or a more daring, slightly less durable metal frame made from leftover tin cans? And how do you even decide which lens makes you look less like a confused otter squinting at a fishmonger? Congratulations, you've just woken up in the spectacular world of 1608, where the most dangerous sport is trying to avoid the pigeon poop falling from the rafters. As the day unfolds, let's zero in on Hans's moment of brilliance. His workshop is a chaotic wonderland of half-assembled contraptions and unfathomable dust bunnies the size of small dogs. In one corner, a disgruntled cat watches with all the judgment of your high school art teacher, contemplating its life choices as it plays with a spool of thread as if it's the most entertaining show in town. Now, amidst this chaos, Hans holds up a sleek tube, no more complex than a modern-day toilet paper roll. Only his might be slightly less comfortable for actual toilet use. With pride beaming like the glow from a full moon on a particularly clear night, he invites a few curious onlookers to pay attention. "Behold," he declares, with the flourish of a magician revealing the world's worst-kept secrets. "The spyglass." As he places the two carefully crafted lenses into either end of the tube, people gasp. Not because they can see into the future, but because they can. Finally see the distant church tower as it looms closer. It's like the first time you realize that zooming in on your smartphone isn't actually just something your grandparents do to make their photos look vaguely sentient. His friends lean in, squinting at the spectacle, faces twisting in astonishment. It's a classic sight. Three amazed men and a very unimpressed cat staring at a tube, all thinking, "Wow, I can actually see the tower." Which leads us to the important question. What on earth was he doing before this? Was it all about shouting at poor vision or messing around with poorly made spectacles that only made people dizzy? "You think that's impressive?" Hans muses. "Imagine what we can see next." Picture the hilarity that ensues as one of his friends mistakenly points the spyglass at a potato, squinting through the weirdly crafted lens, screaming, "Is that? Oh wait, no. That's just a really ugly potato." But this isn't where the magic ends. Imagine debates breaking out among the local townsfolk. Did they argue over who should get to use the spyglass first?
Were there whispers of betrayal as neighborly naysayers started suggesting that they'd rather keep squinting at things from afar like they had always done? Doug, you saw the church tower yesterday. It's slowly creeping closer. Are we being invaded by the buildings? The laughter reaches an uproar when Hans realizes this gadget might just change navigational history forever. Who needs a compass when you can squint awkwardly through an awkwardly crafted tube? It's both genius and absurd. The medieval GPS, minus the annoying voices and data plan. As time rolls on, Hans's invention not only catches the eye of merchants, but eventually lures in a few interested noblemen. Just imagine the spectacle of it all. Everyone posing dramatically with the spyglass, proclaiming they'd just seen an army of carrots marching towards them. Suddenly, this simple tube becomes the device that allows you to sight distant lands, or even just admire the neighbor's bloomers hanging out to dry. All this brings us to the truth about Hans Lippershey. He didn't just invent the spyglass. He opened up a fantastic conversation about vision, clarity, and, admittedly, the perennial question, how can I see that coming before it smacks me in the face? So as you settle back under your cozy blanket, think about this spectacle enthusiast. He didn't just elevate our way of seeing the world. He invited us all to share in the absurdities of the age, one hilarious potato at a time. You might be tempted to sleep as these snippets of history swirl in your head. But remember, just like ancient people peering into the unknown, a little humor always helps illuminate the exotic and ever so slightly awkward tales of our past. And just like that, a simple spyglass not only changed perspective, but allowed humanity to gaze upon history with awe, amusement, and just
a tinge of disbelief. How wonderful to close your eyes, ready for rest, while letting dreams be filled with remarkable moments like these. Chapter 23. Galileo's Slightly Wobbly Dreams. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy cocoon of history, where the past is as comforting as a warm cup of cocoa. Assuming that cocoa hasn't been left out to grow a beard of mold, of course. Tonight, we're diving into a world of telescopes with all the precision of an IKEA assembly manual. Yes, tonight's feature is Galileo Galilei, the father of astronomy, who, despite all the foggy edges, took us on a cosmic ride quite literally, like a roller coaster designed by someone with no safety regulations. Before we catapult into Galileo's glorious misadventure, why not take a moment to give that like button a gentle poke? And if you enjoy this late-night jaunt through mildly interesting history, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment, especially if you've ever accidentally pointed a telescope at the moon and realized it was just a burrito you misplaced on the kitchen counter. Now, dim the lights, let your fan swirl that air just right, and settle in comfortably. Consider the life of a Renaissance man like Galileo. Did he ever wonder if the stars were just shiny dust particles left over from a celestial cat's hairball? Or perhaps ponder why the craters of the moon looked suspiciously like that weird imprint on his buddy's couch? How did he manage a bad hair day while trying to unlock the secrets of the universe with a telescope that had the accuracy of a broken compass? Congratulations! You've just woken up in late 16th century Italy, where scientists were beginning to see stars, both literally and figuratively. Imagine your first morning in this vibrant yet utterly chaotic time. You step outside into the chatter of people in the bustling market, where vendors shout about their wares as if life depended on it. Fresh tomatoes! Not from the moon, but almost as juicy. Picture the overwhelming scents wafting through the air, fried pastries mingling with the unmistakable aroma of sweat, horses, and questionable hygiene. Because personal grooming in the 1600s was more of a gentle suggestion than an absolute necessity. And then there's the spectacle of Galileo himself. Picture him, a bespectacled genius, though you might think he just misplaced his glasses at a particularly wild party. He gestures emphatically, pointing with all the charisma of a man trying to convince his friends that kale is not just a garnish. "Guys, you simply must look through this contraption," he exclaims, holding up his rather clunky telescope, more reminiscent of a potato cannon than a scientific instrument. Now let's pause for a moment. How many times have you tried to convince your friends of something incredibly far-fetched? No, really, I mean it. Sorbet is the new pizza. That's essentially what Galileo was doing to a rather skeptical audience. People squinting at the tube that looked like it had survived an unfortunate encounter with a wooden fence, wondering if he had just invented a
Fancy way to stare at the clouds. As the scene unfolds, Galileo lifts his telescope, aiming it at the night sky, aligning it like it's the festive season, and he's shooting for the star at the top of the tree. The townfolk, simultaneously intrigued and confused, gather around. One man, with a beard that probably housed an entire ecosystem, scratched his head in disbelief and muttered, "Why not just throw a rock at the moon instead?" With a determined furrow in his brow, Galileo peers through the lens. What he discovers is nothing short of astounding. The craters, the moons of Jupiter, all of it unfolding in front of him, as exciting as finding out that your favorite sitcom just got renewed for another season. You, dear listener, can only imagine the look on his face. Part joy, part sheer disbelief, like he had just bitten into a delicious pastry, only to discover it was made with black pudding. Yet, with his dreams of unraveling the cosmos, there's a slight hiccup. His telescope had only 20x magnification. Imagine trying to watch your neighbor's backyard barbecue with binoculars made for squirrels. "Oh look, Timmy, I can see your dad's hot dog," a little too closely. How embarrassing would that be? But here's where it gets comically brilliant. As he gazes at Jupiter, he sees it's not just a shiny ball, but has moons racing around it. "Eureka!" he shouts, which ironically sounds like what you'd yell if you stepped on a Lego at 3 a.m. The townsfolk still think of him as that odd guy down the street, furiously shaking his frightened cat whenever he gets a bright idea. It becomes a point of contention. Some townsfolk rally around him, shouting, "Galileo, prophet of science!" while others wonder if he's just another eccentric trying to sell them astrology readings on parchment. One man notably quips, "Do you mean to tell me that Jupiter has more moons than my car has problems?" Picture the debates that erupt like a poorly aimed souffle. There's passion, laughter, heated arguments over what the moon really represents. Is it romance, or just a giant cold rock that gets in the way of a good night's sleep? At last, in this whirlwind of discovery and absurdity, Galileo secures his place in history, and you can't help but chuckle. This man used a flawed, potato-like telescope to unravel the secrets of the cosmos. You might think to yourself, let that be a lesson in aiming high, quite literally, even if you squint out of one eye. As you drift into a lovely slumber filled with dreams of escaping reality in a telescope adorned with celestial secrets, take comfort in knowing that even a little wobble can lead to monumental ideas, and, perhaps most importantly, the realization that sometimes life is all about perspective, or, in this case, just a well-aimed potato cannon. Chapter 24, The Revolutionary Reflections. Hey guys, welcome back to our tranquil time travel machine, where the past is like a pair of old shoes, comfortable, slightly worn, and possibly containing more secrets than you'd be willing to admit. Today, we're about to leap into an era when people were just beginning to realize that the universe isn't just an expensive ceiling painted with stars, but rather an expansive field of wonders suited for a certain gent named Sir Isaac Newton. That's right, folks. Tonight, we're taking a peek at the early days of telescopic technology. Before we launch into a raucously funny tale of Newton wielding mirrors like a magician with an oversized deck of cards, let's not forget to give that like button the good old pat it deserves. If you're enjoying this journey through mildly interesting history, consider subscribing, but only if you're not the type to hoard garlic bread like modern-day dragon. Now, I invite you to dim the lights, turn on your favorite little circulation device, yes, the fan, not your uncle who insists on showing off his karate moves, and settle in comfortably. Imagine, what would it be like to discover that the planets aren't just shiny dots,
but actual chunk of cosmic real estate? Or how many failed eyewear experiments would it take before you accept that those steampunk goggles you made last Tuesday are probably not going to solve the riddle of the universe? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1668, the year when Sir Isaac Newton was more of a mad scientist than a reputable figure, wielding mirrors like another might brandish a decorative sword made of tinfoil. Think about it. How would you feel crafting a device that could potentially change the course of astronomy as you gazed through it while muttering, "Why doesn't this look like the moon I expected?" As we enter this wondrous world, let's talk about the observing experience, both exhilarating and somewhat bewildering. Picture Sir Isaac standing in his cluttered workshop, surrounded by stacks of dusty tomes, odd-looking trinkets, and what might appear to be experimental soup. His hair is a wild tangle, likely from consistent exposure to scientific ruminations that would confuse even a lab rat. Now, imagine trying to navigate this setup. Every corner is like an archival nightmare waiting to happen. As you draw closer, you hear the distinctive tinkling of glass. "The light must reflect correctly," Newton exclaims, as he juggles concave and diagonal mirrors like they're the latest trend in food preparation. Everyone's getting into home decor, but this guy's like, in a world full of picture frames, be a primary mirror bouncing light towards a side-mounted eyepiece. Meanwhile, dusty air fills the room, each inhalation reminding you that scientific progress doesn't come without a touch of medieval allergies. Is that mold or a genius at work, you ponder? The smell might be. Akin to that time you opened your fridge on a night too dry for laundry day. It's a fine line between innovation and indecipherable chaos. Now let's get cozy as the simulation begins, painting the picture of Newton using his mirrors. There's a glint of sunlight gleaming off the concave primary mirror, illuminating the hidden corners of the past, while the flat diagonal mirror, much like your wise aunt probing about your love life, redirects the light precisely toward the eyepiece. With each angle, a new star reveals itself, as if the cosmos were playing a game of peekaboo just for him. At this point, it's worth noticing the absurdity of human endeavor. We often think we're improving things, upgrading, replacing, re-engineering until we reach perfection. Ever tried to assemble IKEA furniture while catching a glimpse of the universe? You'd spend half your time fumbling with dowels and pieces that seem determined to defy your very existence. "Is this a bookshelf or a miniature spaceship?" you'd mutter under your breath. While Newton had to overcome far more significant hurdles, like learning why people believed the Earth was the center of the universe. Spoiler, it wasn't for a lack of convincing arguments. As Newton twists the lenses and mirrors, a moment of clarity strikes him, illuminating both the universe and the whispers of history, like he was untangling wires from last year's Christmas lights. Do you think he ever had those days when nothing quite worked? When the light rays seemed more stubborn than your neighbor's cat, determined to ignore your attempts to coax it towards you with distractions? Imagine him muttering, "This is supposed to reveal Jupiter's moons, not make me contemplate my life choices with each failed reflection." But Newton, with an uncanny mix of determination and slight madness, perseveres. And finally, after countless adjustments, the angled setup validates his wildest dreams. He sees the cosmos. Now, armed with this fantastic new telescope, Newton doesn't just revel in discovery, he also faces the popular polls of the day, often met with skepticism that rivals contemporary discussions about pineapple on pizza. Just imagine the townsfolk gathering around him, some saying, "The Earth isn't flat? What next? You'll tell me the moon has a meal plan?" Others nod appreciatively, thinking how he should probably specialize in cookie jar placements instead of the cosmos. Yet through all the laughter, skepticism, and a collage of mispronounced astronomy terms, Newton's reflecting telescope emerges victorious. One tiny step for mankind, one giant leap in preventing your average neighborhood feud about celestial bodies.
As you cozy into your dreams, filled with reflections of Newton's revolutionary insight, remember this: greatness often comes not from flawless plans, but from a combination of crazy ambition, a bit of trial and error, and mirrors that occasionally point you towards the cosmos.
Next cosmic revelation. You can't make this stuff up. Well, not without a significant amount of dust and a man wildly gesticulating about the secrets of the universe just a blink away. Just a blink. Chapter 25. The Galaxies and Goofs of Herschel. Hey guys, welcome back to our comfortable time machine, where the past is like a buffet filled with odd dishes, some delectable, some unidentifiable, and all of them ambiguous enough to make you question your life choices. Tonight, we're about to embark on a journey into the cosmos, diving deeper than a goldfish in a shallow pond and coming up with a universe filled with planets, one of which got a rather unfortunate name: Uranus. Yes, Uranus. It's like the universe's joke that just keeps on giving. Before we go gallivanting through the stellar wonders, don't forget to give that like button a gentle nudge, like a cat trying to get your attention while you're on a call. And if you enjoy our nightly escapades through the blurry lines of history, do consider subscribing. But only if you genuinely fancy being part of this quirky squad. No pressuring you into being part of any cosmic conspiracy against sleep. Now, let's dim the lights, hit the fan like it's your favorite DJ, and nestle into a comfy position. Close your eyes for a second, and try to imagine Bill Herschel, our star of the evening, standing with a telescope so large it could have doubled as a makeshift surfboard. Yes, I said surfboard. If only he could take it to hit the waves of Saturn's rings. But alas, I digress. Have you ever stared at the sky and thought, are there really little green men up there, or am I just overly caffeinated? What about attempting to construct a device that might either launch you into orbit or simply roast marshmallows in your backyard? One moment, you're a mere guy named William Herschel in the 18th century, and the next, you're expanding the known universe while your neighbors wonder why your backyard looks like it just hosted an alien garage sale. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1781, the year when street lamps were so far from LED that a candle was considered state-of-the-art lighting. You find yourself observing Herschel, a ruddy-haired fellow clad in a coat that may have been hit by a fashion truck, which probably dropped reams of fabric without looking back. He stands beside the Leviathan, his massive wooden reflector telescope, staring into the cosmic beyond like a kid looking into a candy store on Halloween night. Let's set the scene, shall we? The night is crisp and clear, stars glinting like they borrowed diamonds for a high society gala. You could probably hear crickets chirping a sweet lullaby. And somewhere in the distance, someone is likely questioning their life choices with a lute in tow. Herschel crouches beside his telescope, adjusting the enormous reflector mirror, which seems to require the kind of TLC usually reserved for grandma's favorite quilt. Now, picture this. You're on the threshold of a breakthrough that would turn the astronomical world upside down. Let's see what's out there, Herschel murmurs, peering through. The eyepiece, as if it's the last slice of pizza at a party. The excitement is palpable, until he sees what he assumes is an out-of-place star. With a gleam in his eye, he manages to make a monumental discovery regarding this unexpected alien guest. "Is that a planet?" he exclaims, only to be met with the traditional skeptics of the era who probably couldn't even find their way to the next meal. One can imagine the townsfolk sitting around, jaws dropping in unison at the thought of a new celestial body, as one rather dubious neighbor adds, "Next you'll tell us the moon is made of cheese," to which another might promptly interject, "Only if your telescope comes with a side of crackers." But here's where it gets a bit juicy. Discovering Uranus came with its share of silliness. Imagine the paperwork. "Oh, you want to name it?" His peers would suggest the mythological Titan, Uranus. Then, before Herschel could even react, you can visualize someone awkwardly muttering Uranus out loud. And just like that, laughter echoes through the observatory like an unfinished joke.
Thank you, 1780s sense of humor, you might think, chuckling along with the scene. But through all the giggles and eye rolls, Herschel's achievement was monumental. He just doubled the size of our solar system, proving that the heavens could indeed be a bit more crowded. Sometimes, when you're doing great things, our dear universe has a funny way of reminding us just how human we all are. By now, you might be wondering what it was like for a guy trying to explain to others how he found Uranus. Picture yourself as Herschel, launching into a lecture. Okay, everyone, gather round. I was just minding my own business, peering through this giant telescope, and boom, a planet. And don't be cheeky about the name. It's all about Greek mythology. You can almost see people simultaneously trying not to giggle while nodding, as if they were pondering the mysteries of life itself. And yet, beneath the laughter, there's a trail of unyielding ambition propelling him forward, pushing the boundaries of human understanding. Isn't that something we can all admire? In a world that often drags us into the mundane chaos of existence, think about that email you have to answer, or the neighbor's cat that has claimed your porch as its throne. Herschel teaches us that we've all got a little bit of a cosmic explorer within. As you slip into dreams filled with stars, planets, and slightly uncomfortable celestial puns, remember this. Even in the realm of discovery, humanity thrives on laughter and the occasional cosmic blooper. You can't make this stuff up. Or maybe you can. But the universe seems to have a soft spot for those who gaze thoughtfully through oversized telescopes, pondering the sheer absurdity of it all. As we reach the end of tonight's journey, let your mind drift back across all the wonderfully bizarre scenes we wandered through together. From the ancient Egyptians bravely experimenting with crocodile dung, proof that desperation and imagination have always walked hand in hand, to the storm-tossed soldiers of 1814 dodging cannonballs, flying rooftops, and a hurricane with a personal vendetta. History has shown us again and again that humanity survived not only through strength, but through sheer stubbornness, humor, and the ability to keep going when everything around them made absolutely no sense. These people endured heat, hunger, war, superstition, terrible medical advice, questionable hygiene, and weather events that seemed choreographed by a chaotic playwright. And yet, they laughed, they loved, they tried new things, some better left untried, and they carried on. Their resilience wasn't polished or heroic in the movie poster sense. It was messy, smelly, confusing, improvised, and endlessly human. And because of them, because they kept waking up, kept experimenting, kept rebuilding after storms and after mistakes, we inherited a world where life is a little softer, a little safer, and thankfully, a lot cleaner. So as you lie in your warm bed tonight, take a moment to feel grateful. Grateful for electricity. Grateful for modern medicine. Grateful that storms no longer decide the fate of nations. Grateful that your contraceptive choices do not involve crocodiles. And most of all, grateful that the struggles of the past have carved a smoother path for the present. Now, breathe deeply. Let your shoulders loosen. Let the noise of the day fade like smoke after a storm has passed. You've traveled far enough for one night. Rest now. Let sleep take you gently, the way history softens once the chaos settles. Good night.